Oh shit, suddenly years have passed, and we've all changed appearances. It's a time skip. Hello and welcome to the Nen Show Podcast. I'm your host, Craftsdwarf, here with my co-host Mathwiz. Say hello, Mathwiz.
We went through 2 time skips in this reading.
We did.
And next reading is also going to start with a time skip.
Yep. Though the second one in particular was pretty notable. Because it, I think it was in the Toriyama interview we linked last time, but it was just about how, he was fucking afraid that people would, hate Dragon Ball and Goku if Goku, got older and changed, to the point that he sat in the jump offices waiting for angry phone calls the morning that the chapter dropped, and nothing came. No one had a problem with it. Everyone was perfectly fine with Goku becoming an adult, and so it's just, but it's just kind of funny to think that was because this was a pretty notable thing, as far as shonen stories goes, because obviously time skips happen, but not the usual design changes. But nowadays those are expected to a point. So But anyway, before we get to the reading, comments. Did you have any to respond to?
I do, but I don't like when you start with me because I need a second to regather my thoughts.
I'm toxic, but anyway. So
also you might even point out the ones that I would have wanted to.
Well, Grem had a really fucking long one, and there was a lot of good stuff there. But for some reason, the one that stuck out to me was, "Holy fuck, Toriyama! Why the fuck did you call Commander Black?" Originally something Sambo, based on the little black Sambo, which is
it's kind of interesting that comes up here because I had never heard of that story until recently, playing
right.
Danganronpa.
Right.
And it's referenced in one of the executions, and so it's oh, okay, now I'm aware of this story, and so it's oh, I see.
Right. And I guess it's also relevant to the reading, because I don't know if this is an art thing or if it's a change to the art in this release. But Mr. Pobo shows up, and I don't know. Does he not have lips on your version, or?
I'm gonna be honest. I do not remember.
Okay, gotcha. We'll find out.
I won't remember until we get there.
Because the way it seemed that he on mine, because I remember him having lips in the anime, because it's obviously part of the his contentious design. But in my version, it seems I don't know if the lips are just the same color as his skin and they just blended in, or if they were removed. So it just sometimes has a really thin white line, or you can still see where the lips should be because based on the mouth, it just looks really weird, and it doesn't seem like this is how and it doesn't match my my memory of what he would looked like. But mostly from other things. So I don't know. I was just gonna ask if you had an art difference because I assume we're reading similar releases, if not the same release. So I just thought I'd ask. But if you want to respond to a comment, go ahead.
I think the other one that I thought was interesting, there were a bunch of people who pointed out the whole thing with the 4-star ball and Goku he does the selfless quest to revive Upa's dad, and how that he's reunited with Grandpa Gohan in the end. But I really liked Drema, I don't know. The comment here goes a little more into specifically how the connection to Upa through the loss of a parental figure, that Goku lost his grandfather, and it all does tie into the 4-star ball still, kind of, because he gets what he's looking for, but he continues to go further. But it's also I don't know, I think as this person describes it here, it's you could read it almost like a redemption for Goku. Not that it's necessarily his fault that he killed his grandfather, but he was able to go back and through Upa kind of have this connection and revive his father. And it was an interesting observation that I had never connected in my head.
Yeah, because part of it is that Goku's at this point still isn't aware of his involvement in Gohan's death, if he ever becomes aware of it. Because there was the part where, Kami brought the moon back, but he had to remove my tail. I don't know why, and everyone's just I see, because they know why. But So anyway, the first one of the other ones I want to mention is 27 Dengel mentions, yes, of course, I really should have assumed that, yeah, there are Japanese power scaling YouTubers because, like, and I should have, thought about that because just, otaku nerds liking numbers and data and that kind of stuff and databases, right? Like, Wikia is a good example. Like, there are so many well-researched and documented fan Wikias of various series that, like, because nerds care about that kind of stuff. So, of course, there'd be, like, power scaling debates and stuff. A related comment that I wasn't a fan of is Umor's, where, like, I feel like he's kind of assuming what I feel on something based on secondhand remarks, because, like, well, especially, like, the last part of the comment is fucking dumb, and the part before that is, kind of, like, off base, I think, in regards to just discussing power scaling at all. Because, like, yeah, I am kind of fascinating, like, as an outsider to the power scaling community, I'm kind of fascinated in it because, it's, like, this is a thing that is real and, like, super in-depth and, like, I'm like, what the fuck? Why? Because I don't really care about whether Goku could beat Superman or whatever, but some people really do, and some people are really interested in that kind of thing. And that's fine. Anytime I feel like talking, or, like, because I've talked with What About Power Scaling, and, I tend to cringe to death, like, when he talks, and not about it, like, not normally. This is, like, not a normal what thing. This is just this specific topic. But, like, I can find it interesting, like, two Seth the Programmer videos I actually thought were interesting, where one was, gorillas versus bears, like, who would win, and the other one was, Mike Tyson versus, Bruce Lee, I think. And those were interesting, but those were also on real things rather than, like, fictional characters. Which I guess to go into the like one of the other part of the comments that bothered me is because, like, oh, like, see, all these stories use combat, like, there's inherent power scaling, and that's not true, because, like, power scaling, as I refer to it, refers to, like, a very specific set of rules that people use to fairly, judge whether two fictional characters, like, who would win a fight based on what they do in the story. Where when you're talking about a story in itself, like, the power scalers will often mention that narrative doesn't really work when you talk about it in a power scaling way, and I mostly care about the narrative. Like, when we're talking about these stories and fights, we're talking about the narrative, not, like, the power scaling of a character, because again, a power scaling it's a very specific set of rules. So I don't know, I just felt that remark was just kind of off base, and the comment really just rubbed me the wrong way in general. So yeah.
There was also
a nicer comment, please.
I feel like there was more than one, but I feel like I only found the one when I, like, look back through the comments. Or maybe I read the comment, like, a week ago and then read it again, and I just assumed that there were two. But now I don't even remember which one brought it up.
No.
Oh, it was Mr. Grimm. Just about, like, how disappointed that I didn't notice that, like, apparent, or, that quote-unquote didn't notice that, like, it's the wish that Commander Red has is similar to the one that Frieza had in the Broly movie, and my response to that is just, like, I don't know why I would have thought to bring up a movie that was, made decades after the fact that isn't connected to the... I mean, like,
yeah.
it's a fair comparison to, like, look back on it, like, if we were talking about the Broly movie, and being like, okay, you see this parallel to, like, I don't know, if I had missed it then, I think it would have made more sense to me, but I don't know.
Yeah, like, it's not like we do bring up stuff from later, but I feel like we're not necessarily going out of our way to do it. And of course, my defense is that I haven't seen the Broly movie, so this is my first time hearing of it. So he's like, oh, you Shounen experts. Oh, because I know what you're thinking about, because he actually tweeted in reply to the Nen Show tweet. So,
maybe that's why I thought it was multiple people.
Yeah, that's because I realized that as you said it. It's like, oh yeah, no, you've already been exposed to it. So but he did repeat it in his comment here, which is, for more relevant eyes. But yeah, but yeah, it was news to me. And it's not like we're going to talk about the Broly movie on the podcast, because it's, we don't usually, like, I mean, unless we just happen to watch it, but that's probably not going to happen.
Well,
like it did with Gintama
I don't know
once.
If it is, like, part of the super manga. Like, I don't know how they
it gets
handle
referenced.
that.
Apparently, during one of the parts, there is, like, a single page where they talk about, the Broly thing, but that's a story for another time. So it's like, and I think they also, in the super manga, there's, like, a Resurrection of F, like, 3 chapter spin-off thing, that it's basically just like quickly adapting like the first part of the movie, but it doesn't actually adapt the movie in the manga like it does in the anime. So this is what I mean when I say Dragon Ball Super doesn't have a definitive version, because you like it.
Dragon Ball Super doesn't exist.
Like it's like, because the anime kind of basically covers everything, but it doesn't cover like a lot of it in like the best way. Like a lot, I'm sure most people prefer the movie versions of Battle of Gods and Resurrection of F. And the manga goes further and is compact in certain ways, but it's a mixed bag either way, I guess, as I understand it. But I'll go through both of them in full eventually, I'm sure, but not for the podcast, just the manga. But anyway, those were all the comments I had.
Yep.
So starting off the reading, I just want to say I think this is definitely my favorite reading of Dragon Ball so far, which is surprising because I mentioned last time that when I first read the manga, the Red Ribbon Army was my favorite arc throughout, but now it's like, I guess it's my second favorite reading, at least, like, because it's weird, because if I talked about individual arcs, then maybe Red Ribbon might be my favorite, but like, these arcs all kind of work together, right? Or they lead into each other. So it's I don't know. It's just not as easy for me to compartmentalize these arcs, I suppose. So I don't know, but
I do think it is kind of fascinating how all three of these arcs kind of just like, I mean, there are time skips. Like there's specifically like the time skip between the second and third arc that we read, the third tournament and the Piccolo stuff.
Right.
There is a time skip there, but it's very clearly like the Piccolo fight ends, but not in like a conclusive way, because you see that that baby Piccolo Jr. is a thing. So like they all kind of like bleed into each other in a way that's interesting. Yeah. Like Toriyama was very clearly like none of these sort of have the feeling that like, oh, the story could have ended here, because
until, like,
Dragon Ball has a very well documented history of like, oh, could it have ended here? Could it have ended here? I know there's like a Kanzenshu guide that I've looked at before, which kind of just like debunks,
but not
like
recently.
all the different things where it's like, did he planned to end it here? It's more just like it was an ongoing manga that he was writing, that he was thinking of as he was writing it, and so it's like, yeah, maybe things could have ended here, but he wanted to keep going, sort of thing, or
right, or and then there was like
a magazine, whatever it may be.
I think it's a mixture, obviously. Like it's just, I think what I would assume is that like, it's a mixture of, because Toriyama once, like I made the joke before about how he wanted to draw Dragon Ball and he stopped doing Dr. Slump. He's like, I want to draw this manga instead, and the monkey paw curls, and he has to draw more Dragon Ball forever, But I assume that by Boo, there was probably like less Toriyama interest in drawing the manga and more Jump interest at some point. I mean, obviously, like that's just but he was still like interested enough in drawing the manga to draw the manga, right? So like, on some level, he did want to do it. But I definitely think ascribing like quality to any kind of like weird outside of thing, or even just ascribing quality in some ways is can be a little enemy, but like using like I guess Super High Wolf has been guilty of doing this, where he'll use like sales numbers as a way to justify like, oh look, Bleach got bad because look, it started selling less, therefore no, who cares about the capital, like the capital a series is making in regards to its like what stop, don't do that, right? Or just in this case more of the like, oh, Toriyama lost interest, therefore it went bad. Like what about the people who do like Boo and it is their favorite arc, or Cell, right? Like it's different. It's not necessarily better or worse. And of course we'll get there and decide for ourselves how we feel. But I don't know. It's just I just don't that kind of just argument just rubs me the wrong way, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think also kind of building off of that, like at this point in the reading, I don't well, I mean, like at the very least, like with the like I guess there's a way that you like I don't know. I don't feel like I'm like losing interest in the manga in a sense that like, yeah, things could have ended here and that would have been, like it really didn't need to go further, sort of thing. Although like, I guess the ending where like at least, with like the Western release, it gets split from between like Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. That could maybe kind of be its own thing.
That was like, look, that was such a like great point to end it. Like that like Roshi even like there's a little panel at the end with Roshi saying, "Oh no, it's not over," because like Toriyama had to like remind the readers that it is not ending because it reads as such like a solid conclusive ending, right? Because I'd even had that feeling reading it where it's just like I'm satisfied right now, I am fulfilled, like this could have been the end of the manga, and I'd be like, yeah, that was a solid fun read, right? It wasn't, but I'm also excited for like the Saiyan stuff, especially. I have some hopes for like the stuff after that too, but I'm just like, Vegeta's like largely considered the best character in the manga, so like I think we could, even if we don't love him as much, as long as he's up there, like I think that justifies the manga going on in the first place, right? Because who doesn't like Vegeta to some degree? But we'll see. But yeah, we'll get to the ending when we talk about it of that arc. But anyway, time skip 3 years. I did like seeing more Launch rather, because she is angry and she's also calmed down, and so she's better. But it's like about that. But it's she just has a couple. I mean, kind of the similar jokes, but it's still like oh, you guys want better seats, and she just pulls out her gun and then like.
Yeah, she is a fun a fun presence in the group. I don't know. It's see, at the very least, like up through the 23rd tournament, like the group dynamic is still there. Like no one has kind of been left to the side yet. Everybody kind of feels like they still, even in the last tournament where it feels like everything is really packed in and characters can't really like do a ton, it still feels like they're all having like satisfying roles in the way things are playing out. And even if it's just like characters like Oolong, Poir, the turtle, Lunch, they're all just kind of on the sidelines, just like watching.
But
they don't
right?
They don't feel like they don't feel extra. Like they don't feel like they don't belong there, sort of thing. And it's really fun. I like this cast of characters, and I guess that is a degree to which like the ending of the third tournament is really like it is kind of the end of an era, because then a lot of these characters will. You could maybe read like the Saiyan saga as like a kind of like the end, like the killing off of that era, because a lot of the characters who die there can't really do much in the Frieza arc, and then by that point that arc ends up being so long that it's
it now becomes to a point where like because Oolong and Poir are still going to be there as spectators to a spectator's sport, but after this point, or after these, the 23rd Budokai,
like they can't really do another tournament sort of thing,
right? And even when they do it quickly becomes a backdrop, right?
Yeah, the Goku Piccolo fight barely like fits in the confines of like don't step out of bounds or like that sort of thing.
Right, and it very much kind of like I guess when you think of it like that way, with the 23rd Budokai, I feel like maybe Toriyama did kind of like do as much as he reasonably could within like at least with Goku's story in regards to the Budokai tournament, right? Because like he does do a little bit of other stuff in the Buu arc where but Goku's not there. It's more about like what are Goten and Trunks doing? What's Mr. Satan doing? What's Android 18 doing, right? So it's no longer about like Goku in the Budokai after the 23rd Budokai, even though there still are tournaments that he's there and in, but because I feel like I guess he's both basically exhausted for the most part what he could really do, especially considering like just how fucking strong he is. So yeah. But anyway, the tournament is underway. We get introduced to the Crane School, the rivals. Everyone's still really strong. Of course, we also get Ten Shinhan's arrogance, which he had some good stuff though. I kind of like his arc from across the three arcs, I guess, words, but
I do think, this arc is kind of interesting in how it kind of sets up, like, the school versus school thing, and, like, Yamcha joins in on it, too, and, shoot, what else was it? Like, it's I don't know, this tournament is still fun, because, like, it is really, like, the passing of the torch sort of thing, where, like, Jackie Chun is still there, but, it's, I forget where I was going.
No, there's definitely I do like how the Jackie Chun versus Ten Shinhan fight rounds out, because it just works really well, and even how it continues on into the Piccolo stuff, because both Roshi and Ten Shinhan have their roles there too. But
I feel like the only sort of missed opportunity, I don't even know if missed opportunity would be the word, because it implies that like there's something to be done in this scenario, but like Goku fights King Choppa, and that's his way of like showing off his power and like, oh, look how impressive he is.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has another fight later with Ponpoot, and it's just a squash, which
yeah,
like
I kind of forgot like
he just like, it's sort of the same thing. Like it duplicates. It's like both sort of just like a squash fight, but it's like,
yeah. And
I don't know.
honestly,
Like I remember the anime does a little more with
Okay.
Ponpoot, because like this is the part that I think I mentioned in a previous episode where like it's less about the fight and more that like the guy's manager is like trying to like keep Goku away from the fight, and then like
Okay,
Lunch
yeah,
chases after him with like, I didn't want his ice cream to get cold or whatever, and it's
Mm-hmm.
dumb, but it's like really fun, kind of dumb.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise it's, because I don't know what else really Toriyama could have done here, because like
Yeah.
just thinking more like, you know, I guess to compare it to like the 23rd tournament is that you know, like every fight kind of has a point to it,
Yeah.
and I guess the difference, even like comparing it to the first tournament, is that, you know, even when the characters weren't sort of narratively you know, they weren't like main characters, like there were two side characters fighting, there was still kind of like a, I don't know, it felt like there was a purpose to that fight being there. Whereas, I don't know, the you know, just doing the squash fight twice in a row is just like a little little
Look,
weird.
Here, let me.
But
From my perspective, until you mentioned who Ponpoot, or like, I kind of completely forgot who it was. Because it, like, even King Choppa, because I was flipping through, it was like, oh yeah, he shows up again later in the 23rd Budokai. Like, that
Yeah.
stood out to me more than
see,
Ponpoot
yeah,
ever did.
and I do like the reuse of that character in that instance, because there is a difference in how the fight plays out, because like it just goes to show how much Goku has surpassed that guy, that like, you know, Choppa like looks to the sky and he's like, oh, you're above me, and he's just right behind him, and just like he just knocks him out with like one little chop.
Right. And he's even gotten stronger apparently, but it's like, nope, doesn't really matter. Right.
Whereas like in the first fight he has to do a little more. Like it's still a pretty easy victory for Goku, but he has to, you know, it's not as simple as like, you know, it's not as easy of a victory. And so like,
Yeah.
you know, to bring that character back in that role, I think worked.
Yeah, and in that, like, I'd almost say, like, maybe even combine the two and just have King Choppa fight Goku in the first round, right? Like, maybe that would have worked, and just that way you kind of just instead of, like you said, having the two squash fights, just do the one and be like, wow, that guy was supposed to be really strong, but Goku beat the stuffing out of him. You know, I don't know.
You know, if you were going to do that twice, like, I do struggle to think of, like, how to make it different.
Yeah. Yeah,
Which, I mean, it could also be, you know, like Toriyama writing a weekly manga, and you know, you just keep going and going and going. So it might have just been like, I have this extra spot, and I don't really have the time to like fully
right. He
do
could have been
anything
thinking
else,
about it
maybe?
for he could have been thinking about it for days or weeks until he just finally was like, fuck it, just do anything, right? Because that's just weekly grind, burnout. Like, you know, it's not. I'm not gonna get. I can't get too hard on any
unless,
author,
like,
right?
Maybe somebody can read more into it, that like the real difference between the two characters. That like, oh no, there is a purpose for there being
And like,
these
yeah,
two
there's
different.
definitely and there's definitely like a personality difference. Like Ponpoot didn't seem like, you know, King Choppa was more arrogant and stuff, but also as a result, Ponpoot kind of just doesn't like have any presence whatsoever.
Yeah.
But you know, it's, I guess we're maybe spending a little too much time. We're spending more time on this than Toriyama did. Let's be real.
Well, and that's the thing. Like that's like my biggest complaint, and it's such a minor nitpick, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, it is a really good arc. That's just kind of like the only, you know, real like negative point I could draw against it.
No, yeah, it's like this whole reading is just all good stuff. But yeah. Also, one little detail I like when they're sort of divvying up the fights is like, because obviously you know, it is a story, it's a narrative. The fights aren't going to be actually to be decided randomly. The author is going to decide what fights work best for like the arc of the story. So instead of like just having it be contrived, Chaozu is like deliberately manipulating it. So it's kind of like an in-universe way for Toriyama to get what he wants, while also adding like the characterization there for, you know, Tien and Chaozu, or Tenshin. I did it. I said the dub name. I've ruined it. I'm sorry. I have to quit listening to the podcast now. Yeah. So yeah, I just thought that was neat. I was like, oh yeah, because I know that shows up again. Like, I especially remember it happening in like the very last tournament with Boo manipulating it so that Goku can fight Oob. Yeah. I guess that's the other thing, because you've been mentioning, like, oh yeah, this is cool, but it doesn't show up again. What I've also been noticing is mechanics that do, in fact, show up again, and very often. Like, the Sensu Bean, especially, becomes a series mainstay. Or, what was the other one? The rule of how the Dragon Balls have to exist as long as Kami exists, and if Kami dies, the Dragon Balls die, because that kind of becomes a recurring sore spot, basically. But anyway, on to the fights. First
I'm looking at the panel where it's just I like the dynamic with Ten Shinhan and Chaozu, because I really like, because Chaozu is making fun of Krillin, and they're just like being little shits, and then Ten Shinhan's like embarrassed and he's like pulling Chaozu away and he's like, no, stop, and he's just like sticking his tongue out, and it's a shame that this character doesn't really have much to do in the big picture of the series, because I wouldn't harp on it as much as I remember Mystere Fusion doing, but like he's a goof, he's a dumb child, but he's great. I love him.
Yeah, because Chaozu really doesn't get much outside of like his stuff with Krillin, and it's really only in this arc that he really even gets that.
But it's such a fun fight, because he has like all these like psychic powers, but then he's just like, what's like 3 + 4, and he's like
Yep. But anyway, before we get to that fight, is Ten Shinhan versus Yamcha. Or, Yamcha, the poor dolt, as he is often called in the Dragon Ball X section. He's just, he's the jobber, so he is he does his, he does his best. He even gets, like, he does get cool moments, though, like, he does the Kamehameha, even he can do this now. It doesn't work, but he can do it. And, of course, it also shows off, like, Ten Shinhan's cruelty, because he just, breaks his leg, and it's a level of brutality you don't really see in the Budokai as much. So setting up the conflict with Goku, of course.
Yeah, and like, even though Yamcha does have that jobber role, like they even call attention to it in the third tournament, where they're like, maybe he'll finally get out of the first round, and he doesn't. But like, credit to Toriyama that he's able to use this character in this way. Like, maybe by that point it kind of gets a little predictable, that like, oh, you see it coming, like, yeah, he's not gonna.
And yeah, even though we are like, it's Yamcha, right? He's the punching bag. His fight against Ten Shinhan is still more notable than Goku's first round fight.
Yeah. See, like, the thing, I know Yamcha's like, the community memes on him a lot as like, killed by a Cyberman. He sucks. He's bad.
The pose is now more iconic than it. I feel like it's more iconic today.
Yeah,
as
like,
opposed to him lying in the crater.
Yeah, it's been referenced in a lot.
So more so than it used to be when that chapter happened, right? It's like retroactively become more of a meme, I guess. So
I mean, like, there's even, isn't there like the fucking, like, I forget what it is. Is it a spin-off or a fan thing? I don't know, but like, reincarnated as Yamcha,
the Yamcha
or whatever.
Isekai. Which I need to read that. Just that, like, probably after the Saiyan arc, I'll read the Yamcha Isekai, just because it's only like a volume, I think, and it's like there's like a level of novelty there, right? That's just interesting. Like, what the fuck? I need to read it now. I think about it.
But I think, like, at the very least, like, up through the Saiyan arc, like, I think Toriyama gets a lot of like mileage out of, even though he is a jobber, even if you see it as kind of predictable, like, it's never not interesting, because like in the first fight with Jackie, there's like a lesson that he is able to learn from that, and then like when he fights Ten Shinhan, I don't know if he really learns anything from it, because like he's still arrogant later, like he still has that ego streak to him, but at the very least, like, the fight with Ten Shinhan is interesting, and they have like a fun banter, because they're both just like trading these quips back and forth, and it's cool. And yeah, he does get to show off some of his like improved skills, like learning the Kamehameha and that sort of thing. And then of course, like in the third tournament when he fights Shen,
Yes.
there's still even there like he doesn't look like a chump when he loses. Like he absolutely does look like a chump. Okay, never mind. Maybe I'm wrong. He does definitely look like a chump for most of the fight because he's just getting schooled the whole time and he sucks. But then like, you know, he still gets to do his cool technique, which I don't think ever comes up again, which sucks. It's a missed opportunity because that's a really fun technique.
See, I always forget about that kind of stuff, like how little certain techniques are used, because again, a lot of my experience with Dragon Ball also comes from owning some of the video games, where like they do take those like one-time use techniques and make them like full-on like regular by use in a fighting game. You can use them as many times as you want, right? So I just I hadn't thought about that.
Like maybe they're not functionally all that different, because like, you know, Goku is able to bend a Kamehameha. Krillin has his energy beams that he's able to bend. And so, like, you know, just the fact that it's like a little key bullet and not, you know, a key blast. But it's still, like, something kind of unique. And, you know, it can have its own little application.
Yeah, no.
Not to say that, like, well... Never mind, you go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say how, like, even if, like, yeah, a lot of the key attacks are pretty simple, but also that, like, that doesn't manage to stop them from being, like, iconic when they are. Like, I think, you know, like, obviously Kamehameha. And I was even thinking about this, like, doing the reading, because, like, yeah, Goku does, like, the twists on it, right? Where he does, like, the bending Kamehameha, where he, like, punches, I think it was Piccolo Jr. in the back of the head with it. Or he does the Kamehameha from his feet. And he uses it a lot for like mobility and like stopping his momentum.
Yeah, it's a lot of the time it's not even like the beam is doing the damage. He's using it to like propel himself,
right,
or that sort of thing. And then like I'm pretty sure that doesn't really last in the next section of the story.
Once he can fly, yeah, he doesn't need that. But I guess what stuck out to me is because Tien even uses, or Ten Shinhan uses the Kamehameha, because he even marks out it's a very simple technique. But that's also like Goku's a very simple person, right? So it's like it fits him perfectly, and he's still like able to use it in these creative ways because it's such a simple technique, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like even if the power system and stuff is overall pretty simple, like there's still very like standout stuff about it that I appreciate. And it's cool and nice, and I like it. But anyway.
But so we started on that. That all stemmed from Yamcha being an effective jobber.
Right. And I guess the next fight is Jackie Chun versus the Man Wolf, which is, you know, he's still really strong. And the way it ends is funny.
See, and this is also, like, comparing this fight to, like, the Goku Panput fight, is there's, like, something going on here. It's not just, like, character shows up to be, like, beaten utterly. You know, it is definitely, like, a comedic fight. But I don't know, maybe there's some sort of, like, message about, like, identity or, like, you know, accepting who you are or something, because, like, you know, Man Wolf is all, like... I he was very clear to say, like, no, I'm not a wolf man, I'm a man wolf. Like, I'm a human, I'm not a dirty wolf or whatever. I forget what he says, but, you know, he has the line where he's like, Jackie Chun tells him to, because, like, the moon was destroyed, he's stuck in wolf form, and he's like, oh, I can't get girls like this, and Jackie's like, well, why don't you find yourself a nice wolf girl? And he's like, I hate furry people. Which, of course, like, I posted as the meme.
Toriyama doesn't stand for furry rights? Unfortunate, or something. I forget what you said, but
Maybe the tweet wasn't funny.
I just have a bad memory, don't worry.
No, like, you could probably read something out of this.
Actually, I actually kind of had a thought, because
oh my god, Craftsdwarf thinks.
I know, right? Amazing. But because the way specifically, because the fight's funny. Like, I like the way he loses, because first, like, Roshi already showed that he just like has him in the palm of his hand, right? Like, but then he does it. The way he beats him is funny, because he like makes a bone. He gets a bone and just like throws it out of the ring. And because even though he says I'm a man, not a wolf, he still chases it like a fucking dog. And he gets out of the ring, and it's like, you lose, and it's like for a dumb reason, right?
There is like, he also has the one line where it's like watching like you should watch those animal emotions that like I don't know, maybe there could also be a thing in there about like
see, emotion wasn't where I was gonna go with it, because more the way like because you know the
or like instinct maybe, I don't know,
because the Tenkaichi Budokai, it's combat, but it is this very structured combat, which is also something I've been thinking about, because like even like it. I guess mostly because I was thinking about how like Naruto with the Chunin exams, like I can't think of any other like huge like structured combat or conflict situation in a shonen thing before Naruto that gets like interrupted, right? Because where like once the Orochimaru and Sound Invasion starts, it goes from being structured combat to unstructured combat, right? And even an earlier, like Kinnikuman, it doesn't matter what world-ending stakes there are, the tournament structure is still there. Or even in the 23rd Budokai, like Piccolo is literally threatening to destroy the world, but the tournament structure is still basically there, right? So just something I was thinking about. But here you have the man wolf. He's like pulling out his knife. He loses the match and he goes after Jackie Chun again. And like he's not really following the martial arts structure, right? And of course, like that gets resolved in the moment because Roshi hypnotizes him to make him think that the back of Krillin's head is a moon, so that he can transform back, right? But what I really thought about was because with a lot of Ten Shinhan's arc, right, is because, or more accurately, contrasting this to his later fight with Tao Pai Pai. Because Ten Shinhan wants to be like Tao Pai Pai, but throughout his arc, we very much kind of see like what separates them. And which I think we see it in both this arc or at least Roshi mentions that Ten Shinhan's maybe different and maybe shouldn't idolize the Crane School so much. And then we see how he acts in the Piccolo arc, where he's taking on this more like heroic role to try and stop Demon King Piccolo. And then of course it comes to a head in the 23rd Budokai where he fights Tao Pai Pai. But the way that like Tao Pai Pai will like he'll again break from that like combat martial arts structure to use weapons and stuff. I guess you could say that he's more of a beast in that way rather than a man, and so like framed that way, comparing it to the man wolf fight because so I guess like. I mean, I'm not sure. I guess just the way using that less as like call Tao Pai Pai a beast, and more just like he's not a martial artist, right?
Okay.
Just another point of contrast, I guess, if that makes sense. I didn't even think about that until until you were talking about it. It's like, oh wait, hey, maybe there is something probably more incidental, but it's still interesting. And I do like Tao Pai Pai's, or not Tao Pai, Ten Shinhan's arc going through the three arcs here. So which we'll talk about more as we go through. But we are talking way more about these fights than I expect. But anyway, next we have Krillin versus Chaozu, where he's got all these weird things, like the way he like glides across the floor instead of walking, which I also remember from the video games because it very much stands out as far as like character movement goes. Like the games, a lot of the games are really like faithful to the way they adapt certain characters and stuff. So it's just like a lot of it, because a lot of things that they just remind me of the games, and that's another like very standout one. But yeah, you mentioned it before, but he's got a lot of tricks. Which he might have had a better chance against Goku, but you can't trick a trickster. Like Krillin's already got his number.
Yeah, I didn't even actually think about that. But yeah, like Krillin also is like being kind of a trickster in that way.
Right, like with the because especially when Chaozu tries to get him back, and instead like Krillin could just hit him, right? Like because it doesn't. He's smart enough to know that he doesn't need to do math in the middle of combat, right? But he still does the math to show that he can, right? So
yeah, it's I guess Chaozu ultimately is more of a character who kind of works in service of other characters. Which I think he does work well, sort of in that role. Because, him doing, like, the Dodonpa draws the connection to, it brings Tao Pai Pai into the conversation, and, works for Ten Shinhan's characterization and kind of sets that up.
And then it is a fun fight for Krillin, so, it's nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, Goku versus Panpoot. That was Goku versus Panpoot. Moving on.
Yeah.
feel like we already said as much as we were going to, right?
Uh-huh.
But anyway, then we get Ten Shin Han versus Jackie Chun, and this was another good fight. What did you think about it?
I mean, I will say, like, this fight kind of ties into just sort of the Muten Roshi's role in this stretch of the reading. Because, like, I just really like how his character kind of culminates and just sort of bows out after, the Piccolo stuff. Because,
you do kind of get that here when he literally bows out of the fight, right? But,
because he has, like, the guy, he's able to discard the guise of Jackie because, there are people stronger, and, he doesn't have to, I guess, like, create, I don't know, he doesn't have to be the one.
Well, and he also because like I think seeing Ten Shin Han, seeing this actual arrogant martial artist who's never lost before, seeing exactly what he doesn't want Goku and Krillin to become, right? He's able to recognize, like, because I think it even says, like, yeah, my pupils aren't going to become like you. Even if they win the tournament, they're not going to just, like, become arrogant and exactly right. So, but he also sees in Ten Shin Han, like, both a person that can potentially do better and also a rival for Goku. Like, even if Goku loses, like, Goku's gonna, like, he's gonna keep trying and be stronger, right? Because that's Goku, and eventually, maybe 3 years from now, he'll actually win. And that's actually what happens, right? Because Goku does lose, but by technicality more than anything. But so it's just really good for Roshi's character. And then also you have Ten Shin Han doesn't get to have that satisfying outright victory. So, and of course, like we said, like you mentioned the passing of the torch, he's very much like leaving it to Goku. Like he's recognizing, I mean, maybe he could have won, but it's like, it's so close that, and how serious we have had to get. Like, he's old, he's too old for this shit. Let Goku do it. He's youthful. He's still got so many ways to grow. But, it does sort of tie back into the Piccolo stuff later.
I think maybe the only thing that kind of falls like a little flat in this fight for me is just the whole sentiment of like, oh no, don't be evil, be good. Don't. But it's like, what do you mean evil? What do you mean good? Like, I don't know.
I guess I can kind of understand what he's saying, but the way good and evil is just such a like shallow framework, I suppose, right? Because Ten Shin Han is arrogant, and he even wants to be like Tao Pai Pai, who we know him, we know he is an evil piece of shit, right? And Ten Shin Han idolizes that, so it's like we understand. I understand what Roshi's saying, but yeah, the good and evil framework is just like, sure, whatever. But
I think like there's just maybe more interesting ways that it could be. Like I don't know what specifically I'd be looking for. Like good and evil, I think is just like a little vague. Like if it was more about like a specific, I don't know. Again, like I can't think of how to like reword it to make it. Make it more interesting to me.
Yeah, because I mean, his Ten Shin Han's only real flaw is his like arrogance and desire for violence, right? Which, but it's we've seen so many more extreme characters than it doesn't really. I don't know. But and of course Roshi even does like because he says. He even says, you're not cut out to be evil. And it's like, you're not even that good at it. So maybe he should, I don't know.
I do think it's also, he, Ten Shin Han calls him out for not even like, using his full power or whatever. Like he, he didn't fight until he couldn't fight anymore. Like he knew when to, Roshi was able to sort of like accept his limitations and, he knew when to step down and let things progress. He didn't cling to the fight. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I get that. Actually comes up, I think, in regards to Piccolo, right? Because Piccolo isn't willing to let go, right? He wants his eternal youth so that he can keep being himself, right?
Oh yeah.
Where Roshi is willing to pass the torch and let other people handle it. So yeah. Anyway, then we get Goku versus Krillin. Okay, so that's what I wanted to notice, or what I noticed. I just had to check my notes real quick. Because, like, I guess it was more understated than I thought, but, because because I remember mentioning before how like Krillin's kind of tricky, and so I thought he used that in the fight against Goku more, but he really didn't. He only does like one trick to Goku and gets like one hit off for it. But overall, like he's fighting and like holding his own, even as just Krillin against Goku, and so it's really cool. I guess one thing I thought was neat about the fight, because, like, again, part of this arc is, Roshi is no longer, like, needed, right, for Goku. Because Goku's grown so much. And so one way I thought that was kind of, like, factored in is because Krillin grabs Goku's tail, and Goku's like, oh no, I have been defeated, blah. And then it turns out, like, oh no, just kidding, I was fucking around. Because... I think it was even mentioned that when that weakness was first discovered that, Gohan told him, or no, I think it was after the Gohan fight, because that's how he lost, right? And Gohan said, hey, you should train your tail so that you can, you won't be fatigued when it's grabbed. And so now here Goku has taken that lesson. He's taken a lesson from another person other than Roshi, right? Like he's able, and we also know about Karin, Kami, and Popo later. Like he's able to take masters who aren't just Roshi. So Roshi is further like he's taught Goku all that he can, right? Roshi's not like holding on to Goku as a pupil for any reason either. He's able to like step that aside, and so like Goku taking this lesson from someone else just further drive that home for me, I guess. It's good.
Yeah, no, it's a good fight to really build off of the conversation between Roshi and Tenshinhan. That like, they won't turn out to be like you. They don't need me anymore. And then like that is shown through like their fight. That
they're able to push each other and grow and continue to fight in a friendly way without becoming enemies, right? Like, which also because I'm noticing. Like, I'm just seeing this page, and you see both the Crane Master and Roshi commenting on the fight, at the end of it, rather. Like, here's two rivals who also served under the same master, and they became enemies, right? But here's okay. Goku and Krillin don't need to do that. They can be friendly rivals, right? So I just a little small point of contrast that's kind of neat, and I hadn't thought about that before. Yeah. It's a good fight. So what did you think about Goku versus Tenshinhan, the big climax?
I also thought it was a pretty fun fight.
Yeah. I haven't been mentioning it, but the art is, like, still good. Like, it never stopped being good. And, I guess, like, especially what I like about the fight conflict-wise is that, like, Chaozu...
the volleyball part, right? When Tenshinhan just starts... smacking him around like a volleyball, good, actually, which is goofy and for who's otherwise a really serious character.
I guess more what I was thinking about was also the because Chaozu is cheating, right? He's using his telekinesis to weaken Goku so that Tenshinhan can beat him, and then Tenshinhan's like, no, I want to have the actual fight. Like he has more pride as a warrior than to cheat. Like. And I think, and that's ultimately what separates him from, like, Tao Pai Pai, right?
This was another moment where I actually, like, noticed an omission that, like, it was something the anime added. That, like, after Tenshinhan realizes that Chaozu is, cheating for him, he, like, lets Goku beat him up to, like, make up for the damage that he inflicted on Goku while, Chaozu was sort of holding him back. But whereas in the manga, that doesn't happen. It's just like, okay, we'll continue the fight from here.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a really good addition. And which isn't the only one. Which I'm like thinking, like, man, should I watch Dragon Ball? Like, because it sounds like I don't think I'd enjoy it as much as the manga. And
wasn't it Toriyama who was like, oh, I don't really like how the anime for the original Dragon Ball handled
Toriyama
things.
at one point might have also said something similar. Because there was some talk about my server, and he also said he wasn't a fan of the Dragon Ball Super anime during like the points that would have been like the first like parts of it.
What does Super have to do with this?
Oh no, Toriyama. It's just Toriyama's opinion on the anime, I guess. So the comments like that exist, but I definitely want to track them down myself. I guess about it. But anyway, I guess going into further or what I was saying with Tenshinhan, being separated from Tao Pai Pai is because like he's willing to like improve and better himself in that like that spirit of martial arts. And where, Tao Pai Pai, he only cares about, like, the victory, right? Like, how he gets there doesn't matter. He'll use weapons. He'll cheat, right? And so, Roshi's words turn out to be true as, Ten Shinhan separates himself from Tao Pai Pai. The person he wants to be like, right? And so it makes, his character just makes sense from here. And it's good. Also, the way it ends is pretty fun, where the whole fucking arena is completely destroyed. And so, like, it has to resolve by, like, completely in midair with, Goku can't fly. And but he's still able to find a way, like, and it's very fucking it reminded me, like, of more retroactively obviously, but of Urza in Alvarez, where she has, like, most of her limbs broken and the fucking meteor is coming and she still finds a way to fucking take down the meteor. And here's, like, a smaller scale version of that where Goku's like, yeah, most of his limbs are broken, but he, like, or maybe I'm thinking of a later fight. No, I'm thinking of Piccolo, never mind. Yeah, he does that. I take it back, I'm misremembering. God damn it. But anyway, Goku hits the ground first because he hits a car and he loses. But it kind of doesn't matter that much because, Ten Shinhan has changed as a person. And, even if Goku lost the battle, he still won the war. And they have a comrade in Ten Shinhan and Chaozu now. It's nice.
Yeah, and again, I really like how... Again, just using the Kamehameha in interesting ways, creative ways, that it's not like... Because he goes to, like, he's charging it up or whatever, and Ten Shinhan's like, that's not going to work on me, you're wasting it. But then he uses it to propel himself, and it's like, oh, he did it, got him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's also very similar to, just the headbutt definitely comes back up again when he fights Piccolo.
That's
later.
why I got confused, I think, because I was seeing this somewhere. It's like, oh yeah, this is because his limbs are broken, right? No, that's later, idiot.
Well, yeah, because there's there's the part against, like, Demon King Piccolo where he, like, punches him through the chest. But then there's also the fight with Piccolo Jr. where he does the headbutt.
Am I okay? I read it in the reading, I swear. But no, you're right.
And yeah, I think I did also talk about this on your server, but, like, the fact that it just goes from, like, okay, fight ends. 2 pages later, characters are talking. 2 pages after that, oh, fuck, Krillin's dead.
Krillin's fucking dead.
Like,
right.
Toriyama with the fucking manga speedrun right here. Like, not even a chapter of Fallout to deal with the tournament. We're just you really just want to jump right there? We're just going? Okay.
Yeah, no, like, and I still imagine it caused some level of, like, impact because it's like, I mean, obviously, yeah.
No, like, it works as the end of chapter cliffhanger for sure.
Mm-hmm. But, no, I understand, like, more Fallout, like, we've talked about, because, we talked about this with Gintama a lot, where how, like, Gintama, relatively speaking, has had, like, some of the most Fallout of any shonen story we've read, to maybe it's, some level of detriment, but,
it's more just,
for us,
I guess, a thing with Dragon Ball in general, that
it's very
there is,
fast,
like, this, things just going and going and going. Like, there's an appeal to that, because, like, I've talked about on occasion where, like, sometimes the fighting just kind of loses me because it's just happening and happening and happening and happening. But, like, the action, at least up to this point, has never been uninteresting. Because it doesn't usually last super long. Like, even the fight with, Demon King Piccolo, it's like a couple chapters, but that's it. Like, it's relatively, I thought it felt short.
Yeah, and I definitely think that's the part of the medium, right? Like, okay, we got to keep readers' interests. So if it gets too slow for too long, then maybe people aren't going to be interested, right? And we're going to drop in the ratings, or like that fear is very real. So it's probably why there isn't, because it really just like we get like basically an ending at the end of this reading, and what happens next chapter. Fucking Raditz, right? Like, it's immediately into the next thing. Or I was also mentioning how, Kanikuman has no downtime whatsoever, right? And it was running around the same time. So, it's just very much, common to the medium, I suppose. But
it's a shame Kanikuman wasn't ever interesting. Every time, if you're gonna keep bringing it up, I'm gonna keep bashing it.
And maybe it gets good later. I don't know. I mean, I've heard it gets really good after the original ending, but Maybe it'll ever be. Maybe if Nisei's ever fucking translated, we can read more of it. I don't know. Maybe you're like, and yeah, I know you're like, why?
No,
why
please
why
don't
do you hate
translate
me?
it. I don't need to.
And then I read the Kinnikuman on my own, and it's like, it's good, Mathwiz, I swear. And you're like, I don't believe you. All right. But yeah,
I also just like the little comments. It doesn't amount to anything. The anime might actually add more with their dynamic, but just like Lunch being like, "I've fallen in love with your savagery, Tenshinhan." It's like, whoa, characterization for Lunch,
right?
What?
Like, oh my god, Tien broke Yamcha's leg. She's so turned on right now. Like, I don't know. And this even gets mentioned like later on, I'm pretty sure. Maybe it was during the next tournament. Like, she's still into him after 3 years. And it's like, okay, that would have been nice. I mean, to expand on, but whatever. Like, I guess it would have made sense for it. Or it would have been interesting to see Launch and Tien just get together, right? Like. Because, I mean, if like, most of the characters just kind of, like, Oolong, he just kind of hangs out with Roshi for the rest of his existence, right? So, why not just, if you're gonna, I don't know, but of course Toriyama just stopped, I don't know if he forgot about her or just didn't think, to keep her
Although,
around,
knowing how things play out with Yamcha and Bulma, maybe it's for the best that Lunch, her affection doesn't amount to anything.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, Krillin's fucking dead.
Yeah, and it's this is okay. This is where, like, from this up to, I think, probably up until Goku goes to Karin Tower again, is like my probably. I don't know if this will hold up as my favorite stretch of reading for like the whole manga, but at the very least, like, up to this point, I love this stretch of like Piccolo. The resurrection of Piccolo rising to power, and just like everything going on with the characters here is phenomenal. Because this is where like Dragon Ball becomes like the Dragon Ball people are familiar with like the big action heavy stakes and the drama and death and that sort of thing. Like there was a little bit of it in the Red Ribbon Army with Tao Pai Pai, but that's, even that, like, ended, like, the second fight was much less serious, right? Because Goku's so much stronger than him now. And, it's like, it's not, I wouldn't go as far as say this
goofy,
is the first real, like, save the world sort of story. Like, I guess you could maybe say that, like, with Pilaf or, like, the Red Ribbon Army, that it's like, yeah, they could have destroyed the world if they got their way. But this is, it feels smaller scale, I guess, with those two.
Well, and their desires were more benign, right? Like, Pilaf, he just wants to be king in a very vague, unspecific way, right? Like, we don't know what he'd actually do, right? And with Commander Red, with he's like, I want to be taller. And, okay, right? Where Piccolo, we not only, like, very much know what he wants to do, but he's also he starts to do it. He literally nukes an entire city. Right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a level of, like, holy fucking shit that actually happened that, it hasn't happened in the story up to this point.
Like, I would probably feel comfortable saying that, like, this arc with, Demon King Piccolo is probably my favorite up to this point.
Okay, that's cool. Because, see, for me, it's like, I'm tempted to say it's the 23rd Budokai, but it's also, like, a lot of what makes that arc good is also, like, the prior stuff with Piccolo. So it's like, it's hard for me to just choose. And
I think
the 22nd was also really solid, so it's like, god damn it.
I think it just works really well. Maybe, why it feels so special to me is that it is really, you see that turning point. Where, not that this arc leaves all the elements of classic Dragon Ball behind, because, like, the 23rd tournament does still exist as follow-up. But, like, Krillin's death is impactful. And it really, like, it pushes Goku to, like, a place he hasn't been, like, emotionally before. Like, he disobeys the Muten Roshi and, like, runs after just having a grueling fight with Tenshinhan. Like, he acts on his anger in a way he never really has before. Because he is, like, he's generally a reactive character. And here he is reacting out of that anger and desire for vengeance, which is, like,
it's understandable. Like, they are very, like, simple and easy to understand emotions, and Goku is that kind of simple character. But it's like you said, it's being pushed to that darker place, relatively speaking.
Yeah, like I guess the difference between this and sort of like Bora's dad's death is that like, maybe thematically you could draw a more personal connection with Goku.
But it wasn't like this.
He didn't know this
guy, right?
This is his best friend who.
Right.
Yeah. So
they've known for dozens of chapters, if not over 100 at this point, or close, right? Versus like, I met you last chapter. I'm gonna bring you back with the Dragon Balls, or right? There is a pretty notable emotional difference there. So yeah, it's
and it's also more just good material for the Muten Roshi, because even though he does, pass the torch in the last arc with Ten Shinhan, he's still able to, he still has a role in this arc where this really is sort of the end for him. Like, this is his last big hurrah. And after this point, he never has this prominent of a role in any arc. He is more of just a background character, which I think works for him because, he is like the older generation. He has already passed the torch. This is kind of like the most, I guess, personal stakes sort of he's had in an arc, because like he has the history with Piccolo, and like you said, there is that contrast between him and Piccolo, as like, Roshi was willing to let go of let other people do things for him, whereas Piccolo wanted eternal youth and strength, like eternal power.
Yeah. I guess what I wanted to say about quickly about Piccolo, because yeah, I'll bring up Roshi and stuff later, but I'm sure we'll have to talk about him. But, I think after this point I'm going to shut up about fucking Dragon Quest. But, I will say that for some reason, I got a lot of Dragon Quest, there's just a couple little things that reminded me of Dragon Quest. Because, one is that, Piccolo's, minion, the pterodactyl looking guy, for some reason he reminds me of the Baramos, who is in Dragon Quest 3. You spend most of the game trying to take down Baramos, and then when you do, you find out that he's actually a lieutenant to the actual big bad guy. So just little similar, and this would have been a few years before Dragon Quest 3 was a thing. So I've already mentioned that there were a couple other designs. I swear there was one person in the background of the tournament who literally just looked exactly like a Dragon Quest minor enemy or one of the stronger regular enemies that you would have fought towards the end of Dragon Quest 2, which I remember because he's fucking annoying. And yeah, I guess Piccolo being this demon lord kind of thing. And I guess the last one is Pilaf asks for half the world, which I brought up a little bit last time, but this is almost more directly maybe referencing the original Dragon Quest. So just a few little similarities here that I keep, again, I'm gonna notice them, I'm sure, because again, same character designer, and I've played it recently, so it's in my head. But I just got these little bit of vibes from it. So anyway, hopefully I'll stop bringing it up again and again and again, but I can't help it.
Well, I mean, it makes sense as something Toriyama's connected to.
Right. But yeah, I just hope I'm not being annoying because I'm oh wait, this is the third time I've done it every podcast since. Am I just gonna bring up? We'll fucking be reading Saint Seiya, and I'll be yeah, but this reminds me of Dragon Quest actually, and it's why? Toriyama's not even involved in this.
There also just is, even with Piccolo being a much more serious antagonist, and there's a lot of drama involved. The fact that the backstory is he was sealed in an electric rice cooker.
Yeah, that's
and just stuff like that. It's never changed Toriyama,
right? And of course, even Pilaf's role I think is both good as both keeping that older Dragon Ball stuff, the less serious stuff, but also Piccolo is very much above the hierarchy of Pilaf, right? They're even trying to have some of the, hey, can we get some, maybe not half the world, but a country, or maybe just a hut at this point I'd be fine with. And Piccolo's shut the fuck up, and they're okay. Right? So yeah. But anyway, we get the first fight with Goku versus Drum, or is that Drum? Or am I?
No, Tambourine.
I'm my brain.
I also do have a fondness for Goku's dynamic with Tambourine, because if anyone remembers, I did a thematic breakdown video with Goku and Gon.
Oh yeah, Yeah,
and it
I was
has
thinking about
one of
that
my
earlier.
favorite edits on my channel. But just like drawing the contrast between the two characters, like with Gon and Pito, for example, like, you know, he just has all this time to let his anger just like boil in the background, and he's never able to act on it. Whereas like with Goku, he jumps after him immediately and gets his ass kicked, and is kind of able to clear his head sort of after that, and you know, he gets curb stomped, and then he's able to just curb stomp Tambourine later.
Right. Where with Golan it builds up, and yeah, no, I think I know the edit you're talking. Maybe I think of a different edit, because that video it was a good video, and I remember particularly the way you cut to I think it was the way you ended the video with that Killer screaming Golan's name, like the who. And comparing the two, and it's like, it was that's a nice video. But yeah, Tambourine just kind of crushes Goku, and of course, like, they do the, you know, Goku's hungry because he was just fighting Ten Shinhan, and he, in a tournament, that was like his third fight in a row, right? So he's kind of at the end of his tank. So yeah, he just gets wrecked.
I think this stretch of the arc is also interesting because, you know, there were different members of the cast moving around at different points, and they, you know, this is, again, like, stuff that Mysteria Fusion brings up in Dragon Ball Dissection, that, like, not everybody is on the same page. They have different pieces of information. Like, for the majority of the arc, the main cast is operating under the assumption that Goku is dead, because he just runs off and they don't see him ever again until the very end. And same with Goku, like, he's not really aware of, like, oh, the Dragon Balls are destroyed, but he's not aware of that. And he kind of, like, gets the suspicion that Roshi is dead, and that gets revealed to him later. But, you know, like, they all have different pieces of the puzzle, sort of.
Right, so... Yeah,
and it just makes for, I guess... It makes for an engaging narrative in that way.
Yeah, and it is just kind of see that the characters just working in ways that, like, you know, and there's, like, it's not really a dramatic irony in a sense, but it is definitely, like, you know, we know the truth, and the characters are operating with the truth they know, right? But they're still being very proactive and working towards the same goal, right? So it's still able to, like, work in that way, and move things forward. But I guess another thing I also like is, as far as, like, calling attention to older Dragon Ball, is you get, like, they get the roster of, like, famous fighters, and so you get fucking Kaiju Giron. He gets a little fight, right? Like, this minor character from way back when, right? So it's kind of neat to see.
Yeah, I think that also works for, like, the sense of scale with this arc, because there are a lot of callbacks to older arcs, in a way that Toriyama doesn't really do that often. Like, the story is very, like, forward moving.
Yeah.
And there aren't, you know, he does do callbacks, but, like, I don't, you know, this is a little, like, more words. You know, I think I got.
Yeah, it's maybe almost more what you'd expect from, like, maybe even more modern or other shonen series, right? Versus where with Dragon Ball, like you said later, it kind of doesn't do this a lot of the time. So yeah, it's like, I guess, like, that's the thing, and I'm sure I'll feel this way even going into the more Z portion, but every arc in Dragon Ball feels, like, really distinct, right? Where, like, where's the, like, level of comedy versus action and seriousness, right? And you know, how many characters are there and such. Like, I don't know, it's kind of neat, and I like it, because Dragon Ball's always just been kind of whimsical and fun and going at its own pace, and so it's nice to see it being having this variety. But anyway, yeah, like you said, yeah, Roshi's group goes off to find the Dragon Ball, or, well, you know, he gets, like, Bulma and them on the Dragon Balls. Well, he goes to practice Mafuba so he can steal away Piccolo, where, of course, Goku just ends up in the wilderness, and he meets Yajirobe, who is indeed a character. Like, and I guess, like, you know, part of one thing that Yajirobe accomplishes is because he's really fucking strong, right? At least relatively speaking. You know, and but he doesn't care about the tournaments and stuff. So he's just kind of, like, there in the background, and, like, yeah, he fucking, kills the, I think so, right? Yeah, he kills the guy who gets sent after them.
I love the detail where he's like, because Goku ate his fish, and so he's like, you can't have any of this, and Goku's like, I don't want any, which is like, Goku will eat anything, you think, but no, not the demon people.
No, that's a little much. But yeah, Yajirobe is just this like really strong guy who doesn't give a fuck about tournaments or anything. He just wants food. He's a simple man. He's hungry. That's it. But yeah, he kind of like works with Goku for a little bit.
I guess that is also a thing about like Piccolo himself, though. Now that I think about it, like even if this arc does still have some comedy to it, like there are still goofy moments. Piccolo himself doesn't really have the same kind of like goofy undertone that some of the other, that the other antagonists do before this point. He's very practical with like his plans. Like he knows that he was sealed away before, so he's going to make sure that doesn't happen. So he's taking out all the martial artists, and to get his eternal youth. He's very, I don't know, he's effective at what he does, except for the times where he fumbles some stuff, which is, like, oh, his heart has stopped beating. Has it really? Has it really, Piccolo?
Yeah. That happened. But anyway, we get the Kaiju Girin getting killed by Tambourine. It's a little like I just looked at the page where he just fucking shoots his arm through Kaiju Girin's like whole torso, and it's like, ew, gross, don't do that. That's just a little gory, I guess, for relatively speaking. Anyway, then Tambourine comes over to Goku and Yajirobe, and now that Goku's full, he's able to like kind of kick his ass a bit. But of course that pisses off Piccolo because he's like, oh shit, 2 of my spawn have just been destroyed. I need to go fucking take them out. Take whoever did that, rather. Yajirobe wisely decides to fuck off because he's like, oh shit, that's Piccolo, I'm out of here. Because he's like, he knows the legend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's also part of it. Like, Goku misses the whole info dump about Piccolo, so he doesn't really know what he's dealing with. And so, like, I guess Yajirobe having that information is able to give that information to Goku. Or at least some of it, whatever Yajirobe knows.
Yeah, and I guess, like, what's also, as a result of that, like, Goku isn't trying to stop Piccolo because, like, Piccolo's threatening the world or anything, right? He's just this guy who, like, was responsible for the death of his friend, and, he just, he's more, like, stopping the guy in front of him more so than, like, he's being self-righteous about saving the world or anything, which is just how Goku operates usually, but,
Yeah. I also like how Piccolo is just a fucking giant.
He's huge!
Yeah. Like even
his son is
even when we
normal
see
size,
the
right? Yeah,
like when we see the time skip designs later, like even taller Goku is still like shorter than Ten Shinhan, and Ten Shinhan is still like pretty decently shorter than Piccolo. So it's just really like, it depends on like the perspective that Toriyama draws it, but like that first panel where he like drops to the ground and Goku is just like maybe to his like knees or like knee height. It's just like, damn, fuck.
Well, no, yeah, because, like, it's funny to think about. Hold on. Piccolo, Demon King Piccolo, is probably Goku's, like, biggest normal, like, main foe.
Yeah.
Which is funny to think about because, like, even, like, Perfect Cell and Super Buu and, like, Frieza's third form or second, one of the bigger forms. Like, they're all, like, large, but they're still relatively humanoid in size. Or Piccolo's, like, a couple meters tall, like more than that, easily, right? Definitely bigger than a normal person. So it's and I can't think of anyone else who's bigger. So it's like that's weird. It's a weird thing to note, but it's like, huh. And I guess it does definitely give a sort of like scale to him, like just in that side, because like there's very much like a kind of David and Goliath thing that you get in I apparently Fist of the North Star also does it a lot, or no, it definitely does a lot. I've read it. What am I saying? And One Piece, of course, I think very much does it, where even characters like Doflamingo, who have relatively like human proportions, are still like they're just huge, right? So it makes the smaller, Goku's this tiny guy, the David, going up against the Goliath, Piccolo. So it's neat. But yeah, even like old King Piccolo, before he gets his youth back, is still stronger than Goku, and like you said, heart stopped beating. He's dead, which is like, I mean, it doesn't last. Like even before the end of the chapter, he's just like he's fine, right? Like Yajirobe checks, and it's like it's good. I mean, like I suppose it could have been like, what if Yajirobe did like a little CPR or something like that, or just like. Something like simple like that to just instead of just it started beating again, which is a little weird, but it's like it's not too big a deal. But I also remember the Mr. Fusion talking about it a lot, or at least for a bit, right? I think so because I remember it bringing that up too. But it's not too big a thing for me at least. But it's I understand the eyebrow raise at least.
Yeah, because I don't mind that Goku doesn't die here, right? Because obviously, like, okay, he dies. What does the arc do after that? But it's just like there could have been more of a way to justify this other than just like Piccolo is incompetent. But yeah, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
I think the other thing I like in this fight is where Goku does his Kamehameha, and initially Piccolo is like, "Oh, not the Mafuba." But that wasn't it. So he's
got like a he's very much like he respects and fears like the martial artists who like sealed him away to the point that he almost has a phobia, right? Where he's like he sees something that looks like the Mafuba, but it's fine. Everything's fine. But
and I also do like how this technique ends up coming back later, where he like charges the energy into both of his hands, and he like fires one at the ground to get Goku in the air, and then blasts him with it. And like in this one, it almost kills him. Whereas later he takes it like head on and is basically fine.
Yeah, he's Goku. He don't give
Which
a
is that direct parallel is just a good way to highlight the difference in strength.
Yeah. Anyway, Piccolo goes off to get the rest of the Dragon Balls. And I like just the level of like, there is this, logic going on here, right? Like they bury the Dragon Balls where it's like, well, maybe it'll give us a little bit of time. Like they can't just like use super speed and just like snatch them away, right? Like they have to dig them out so that, But then it turns out Piccolo, he just swallows the Dragon Balls and it's like, okay, now in order to get these, you have to kill me. Like good fucking luck. Like because and which also causes a problem because even if Roshi like successfully sealed him away, then he would have to seal away the Dragon Balls too.
Yeah, you would assume. Yeah.
Right. So like that they can't. So it's like do they save the world and seal away Piccolo, or do they save Krillin? Right. And of course, it doesn't work out where they have to deal with that choice. But I just had that thought, and I don't. Maybe it was brought up, and I don't remember it. But yeah. And
I just really like this design for Roshi, where he kind of still has like the Jackie Chun jacket. But he's without the shades and he doesn't have the hat. He
or
really
his wig, right?
Yeah.
So it's like this is definitely Roshi's best stuff in the manga for sure. And like because he's already been pretty good, but because like and ultimately it does fail, but he uses the Mafuba. Like I'm looking at the art again, and there's just like when he even in the panel that he says the Mafuba. When he's using it to attack, like there's just more shading and lines on his face in general. Like the detail is raised in a way that like stands out. And even before that, when Piccolo gets legitimately like, terrified when Roshi says who his master was, Lord Mutaito, and Piccolo is just fucking fuck, right? And that's like a face you don't see on like it's actually reminding me of like the vampire gag before when Upo was like I'm a crucifix and the vampire was afraid, but like because of the level of detail it doesn't like have that same goofy effect to it. It's actually like but it's just something about the face reminded me of that. But yeah, so like it's nice to see Piccolo have this like moment of legitimate terror because of Roshi. And then, Roshi tries to seal him away, though, and it fails. And Roshi just fucking dies. And, whoops. Oh, shit. Didn't work. He does say that, someone will defeat you because, he doesn't, again, he thinks Goku's probably dead. So he doesn't know if that's going to be the case. But, he just has faith in, like, the next generation. In some form. And of course Ten Shinhan is the most likely candidate at this point. And he, of course, sure enough, right after this he did because like I think Roshi even stopped Ten Shinhan from acting, right? So he like has some sort of like I don't know, he stuns him with some sort of spray
and like takes him out. But yeah, like this sequence of events is great as well, because there's like layers to sort of the way the plan just kind of falls apart. Because obviously they do have the strategy of bury the Dragon Balls, we'll try to steal them when we can, but then that falls through, so Roshi's like, okay, I'll try to seal him, and then that doesn't work, and he dies. And even despite the fact that he told Chaozu, like, no matter what happens, like, stay hidden, when the Dragon Balls are used, Ten Shinhan, like, he can't do anything, because he's immobilized, so he tells Chaozu, like, there's still a chance that, like, Piccolo could have failed here,
Yeah.
that, like, somebody else could have used the wish, sort of. And it also, I don't know what to gain from, like, the parallel, but thinking back to, like, how, in the very first arc with Pilaf, where they summon the Dragon Balls, and then Oolong shows up and steals the wish.
Yes, I was thinking about that, because I forgot that Chaozu tried to do that, because I was even thinking, like, you know, hey, Chaozu's right there, shouldn't someone try to do what Oolong did? And he did! He tried to wish Piccolo into destruction, but, you know, Piccolo stops him and kills him.
It also kind of, like, you don't fully get the sense that, like, I don't know, there's, like, this... It makes it all the more, like, crushing when the wish does finally happen, because you get all these little, like, peaks and, like, drop-offs of, like, oh, wait, we can still do this. No. Wait, but
like,
maybe,
all these little pieces of hope that just get dashed because it's Piccolo.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then even to the point where it's like, oh, maybe someone else can use the dragon to kill Piccolo. And nope, he put a stop to that too. He kills the fucking dragon.
Yeah.
Like he aside from, like, I guess maybe that's why his incompetence with Goku's heart stands out, because other than that he is very, like, cunning and cautious, right? Like, he does whatever, like, just going out, he goes after martial artists to make sure he can't be sealed up with the Mathwiz. He destroys the rice cooker, he destroys the dragon, like, he does everything he can to not be killed. So you know, his oversight with Goku probably just stands out because of that, which of course would have been fixed with just, you know, like, just CPR or something like that too, you know, so his heart just doesn't start randomly, I guess, but it's, because Piccolo is very, you know, he's cool in that way, and definitely stands out, I think. Because, like, and I guess that maybe that's why, is because, like, he's, you know, he knows how strong he is, but he's not really arrogant about it, right? Because he knows what his weakness, he knows that he can be defeated, and so he does everything he can to make sure that doesn't happen. I
think this part of the story is also fun because the strategy is more than just we fight him, you know, like, you know, that's obviously Ten Shinhan's sort of flaw initially, is that, like, no, I'm a martial artist, I want to fight this guy, which, you know, I guess is kind of interesting in hindsight, knowing where the series will go, of characters wanting to test their strength against dangerous foes. But, like, here, especially, like, when you have Roshi there, he has more of a plan. Like, nobody, I guess, other than, like, Ten Shinhan and maybe Goku, like, no one else is sort of under the impression that we can defeat this guy. He does just come off as being so insurmountable that they need other plans to make things work.
Right, I guess.
And even if, like, the fight between him and Goku is satisfying in the end, and it's like, yeah, it's an action series, so of course there will be a battle of, like, somebody becomes stronger than him. You know, that stretch where he is just completely unstoppable is really effective for that reason, I guess.
Yeah, well, and I guess because, like, it's like, part of it is a little retroactive because, or no, I guess even that by the end of this arc we find out that, you know, Piccolo's tied to Kami, right? Like, he's like, at least at this point in the story, he is a divine existence. Where obviously later we find, you know, they're Namekians, and we find out a little bit more, right? But going back to the Journey of the West parallels, like, just from the little bit I know about, you know, Sun Wukong going to the land of the gods, right? Like, all the characters in the story, they're in a very mortal mindset, right? Where we can't surmount the gods, but Goku, he's the Sun Wukong. He is what he doesn't care. He's just he'll fuck up the lands of the gods, and even he'll stand against Piccolo no matter what, right? So, like, just that way that there is that sort of divide between, like, you know, how Goku and Ten Shinhan operate versus how everyone else operates.
Yeah.
And it just happens to tie to Journey to the West, so I felt I'd throw that out there. I do get to read it eventually, but yeah. But anyway, so yeah, Yajirobe knows about Karin and the water, or I think they go back to Karin's tower and they find out about the water, the real water.
And I think Pilaf and the others get dumped out of the ship, and I think this is their last appearance in the manga. Sad. If I remember correctly.
I guess they just fucking die.
No, they're alive. There's the panel of them, like, being,
okay.
You know, like, grr, you know, like, okay. Are we that pathetic? But yeah, other than, like, you know, the relaunch with, like, Super, I don't think they show up in the manga again.
And they do show up in GT as well, but, yeah. That's,
GT's not the manga, my friend.
I know. Neither is well, Super is the manga. I guess you're right. I don't know if they show up in the manga of Super, probably, but... Oh, no, they do. They definitely do. Yeah. But we'll talk about them later.
We don't talk about GT. I don't think I've ever actually seen much of GT.
I've seen a few episodes.
We literally don't talk about GT because I don't have anything to talk about.
Okay. Wait. Goku and Yajirobe go up to the tower while Piccolo, in a scene that very much reminded me of Hunter x Hunter. Maybe you got those vibes too of Meruem.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, that is. Yeah.
Right. Well, especially the part that made it click for me was when the martial artist guy comes out to fight Piccolo, which reminds me of when the Nen users in the palace come out to fight Meruem, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, in this setting, obviously, like, for the normal people in setting, the strongest force is like military might, right? Like bullets, guns, weaponry. But we, as the audience, know that the real strongest power in the setting in Dragon Ball's case is martial arts, and in Hunter x Hunter's case is Nen. So you kind of have, so here you have this actual threat coming to take over this palace, and then we get a jobber who has the quote unquote real power of the setting, and so like that's where I really got like, oh my god, this is reminding me of Hunter x Hunter. And because of course, like, yeah, Piccolo just fucking kicks his ass. Though looking again, like, this guy is about Piccolo's size, so this dude is huge. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Piccolo just fucking kicks his ass and impales him with his hand, and just kills him. But yeah, then the king tries to escape, and Piccolo's like, no, you don't. Like, I don't know, Piccolo does have a surprising amount of presence. Like, he's Demon King Piccolo is good.
Yeah. Then we get to the part that I definitely remember Mr. Fusion going on a rant about in his Dragon Ball dissection stuff, and I kind of agreed to some extent.
Yeah, is it Goku getting the water?
Yeah, I think really this is where the arc kind of loses me for a bit, and where I kind of feel like the speed run strat kind of works as like a detriment. But then again, you know, with the caveat that, you know, at the start of the chapter, there's like a title page where Toriyama was mentioning that, like, you know, he was like sick, and like barely finished drawing the story for that week. And it also, you know, could have, I don't know how long he was sick, if it might have carried over a little bit into other weeks, because knowing how, like, you know, usually like manga artists are also like planning out the next, you know, there are other weeks chapters to be planning for and stuff like that. So this is the part where just I feel like up to this point Toriyama has been like amazing with his training arcs, and like you know, especially with the first time where the water was just ordinary, like ordinary rainwater, and it was more the effort that was put in that got to this point. And even after this, Toriyama will still have, you know, like the training with the gods, where, you know, there are still lessons to be learned. Whereas here it's just kind of like Goku drinks some poison and almost dies, but he's alive and stronger now. Yeah, it's hidden potential.
Yeah, I understand, because it does lack that sort of self-improvement aspect, right? Which, you know, is pretty core to the stories. Like, I still think it offers something, because, like, how I saw it was, like, if you look at the methods the three characters try to use to stop Piccolo, Roshi and Tenshinhan use the Mafuba, a technique that will, like, to self-sacrifice themselves to get rid of Piccolo. Where Goku, he takes an option that does indeed risk his life, but it's not one that will, like, guaranteed kill him, right? So, like, you have this divide between characters who will give up their life for the future versus characters who will just risk their lives for the future, which is, like, a small distinction, but he's not trying to throw away his life. He's just prepared to take this risk to defeat Piccolo, because like if he just tries to fight Piccolo again, it's like similar, or even just fighting Piccolo after it is still like taking that risk, right? Of like, I could die fighting Piccolo, but I'm gonna try anyway, right? So that's what I got out of it, at least. Because that is because that's where I'd say like because Tenshinhan also fails like Roshi does, and which again you could tie back to like passing of the torch thing, because they're just like like Roshi does fail, but he does also leave it to someone else, which Tenshinhan takes to be him, and like they're both, Tenshinhan and Goku are both like taking that role on themselves, but they have their different sort of ideals, and so and of course like Goku is the one who does happen to win, and yeah, it is because of the water. And I guess that's just what I saw it as, is just, taking risks versus just outright throwing your life away or sacrificing your life for something.
I think where it also kind of like just, is a little underwhelming for me is that up to this point, like the build up for Piccolo has been great. And it took place, there were like over, I don't remember specifically how long, but there were like several chapters like building up and setting up the plan, establishing what Piccolo is, what he's doing, his minions and stuff. It's like this very like gradual sort of escalation. But then like for the training part of it, it's very quick. And just like that, we're in the final fight.
No, yeah, I definitely had that vibe, and maybe it was something that kept me from liking the arc as much as the 23rd Budokai, even though I still really like both. But because I definitely felt that way too. Though I guess another thought is possibly like, because I feel like at least to some degree, the series maybe has said what it wants to on sacrifice and stuff, but I feel like the Kaioken might have some sort of like self-sacrificial or health-risking properties to it that would tie into like the overall reading of the story on what it says about these kind of powers. Because like we talked about, like One Piece, we did a whole podcast on it, and Gear 2, it's something that like risks his life, and so like there's a level of failure to him using it that he has to like overcome eventually, right? So some stories will sort of use those sort of techniques a lot, and then sometimes they'll use them for different reasons. So I guess like this is what I got out of it here, but I don't know how my reading survives the rest of the manga, is what I'm just gonna say regarding like the willingness to risk your life versus the sacrificing it to accomplish something. But no, I understand because it did, like I said, I was also kind of just like because it just rushes right into the final fight. Like the stuff with Piccolo is good, where he takes over the kingdom. He announces Piccolo Day, where he's like the despair, and he's just like he's gonna fucking destroy one city a day. Enjoy, like, or one city a year or something. I
think like the stuff with the water stands out to me more because other than that, I love this arc, and like even like the climax of it, the fight between Goku and Piccolo, like everything about it is really, really good. And then it's just like that one part where, because I think everything else around it to me is like top tier, the fact that there's like anything to dislike for me about that particular part just makes it stand out more as I
understand.
I forget what was the. Oh, right. I don't want to forget to mention this because up to this point I have been crediting the anime for good original content. I do not want to forget the stupid buffoonery, the absolute the lack of logic, the god. So Tambourine is still a thing at this point, and like we see in the manga, he kills Girin and then finds like, oh, I'm gonna go after Yamcha next, but then Piccolo pulls him away, and he has to go fight Goku. In the anime, they expand on this, where he literally finds Yamcha, and there is like a brief scuffle between the two, and he's literally about to kill Yamcha, and then Piccolo contacts him. And then he just leaves Yamcha alive, even though he could have easily, like, killed him in, like, moments and then went for Goku. And it's so dumb. It's so dumb. It's so stupid.
Yeah, I could see that being, like, I haven't watched it, but I can see that, being a little of a bother. Yeah, because... Especially if they're making a whole deal, like that'd be like if oh man, I just need to break this glass to receive the Dragon Ball, and Piccolo's like, no, I need you to kill someone, and he just like leaves it, like just do it, just grab the Dragon Ball, like you're just gonna have to come back, like. Yeah, no, I understand.
It's like there's convenience, and then that's like a step beyond where it's just like, it's, and it's like yeah, up to the I've given the anime credit where it's due. When I can remember to, but that was just why.
Yeah. But anyway, Piccolo calls for, hey, if you don't want me ruling the planet, just just send an army, do whatever you can. And Tenshinhan comes in, so he spawns Drum, and as a way to sort of like show how strong Goku has become, where Drum beats on Tenshinhan a bit, and he's not really able to do anything, and then Goku one-shots him because he's super strong now with the water, and then we get Goku versus Demon King Piccolo proper.
There's also just like the brutality of how Goku kills Drum, where like his head literally like explodes. And so I think that's what also something I also really like about this arc is like, you get Goku's rage, but this is also just like a direct sort of like he's aware of what he's doing. Like, when he fights Piccolo, he has the intent to kill him. There isn't any of this mentality he will have later, where which is not necessarily a flaw that I'll get that out of the way now. It's not necessarily a flaw that he like wants to fight his enemies again later, because like he very much his mentality shifts between Piccolo and Piccolo Jr. in that regard. But, like, here he shows up and it's like, this fight isn't going to end until one of us dies, sort of thing.
Right. Which, I mean, at least in the case of, like, Piccolo and Piccolo Jr., I can understand why the difference is. It's, like, Vegeta, I need to reread, because Vegeta's a character who very much, like, is responsible for deaths of people, right? Because Piccolo Jr. doesn't actually kill anybody. Like, he threatens a lot of people, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't actually kill anyone, right? So there's like a recognizable like reason why Goku might not want to go that far with him. But it's just something to keep in mind. But at least as far as it's reading, I find it pretty understandable. Like you said, it's not a problem in the first place. But it's something to keep in mind. But it is definitely very much like Goku is gonna kill this guy, and he does.
The panel where Piccolo's like, you shall die in 5 seconds, and there's the editor's note, which is like, he grew a finger, because he only has 4 fingers. Iconic Toriyama moment.
Yeah, see, I don't draw, so like, because when I'm writing, I feel like I'm decently able to keep track of details like that, but I don't draw, because I know these are, like, little mistakes like that aren't uncommon. Like, there's some, I've seen some old, like, guides for, like, early One Piece, and how, there's Johnny and Yusaku from like one of the early arcs. Like Johnny had a watch, and it would just like change hands or just not be there like all the time. Like there was no consistent one. Or like there was one panel where like Arlong's drawn with human teeth instead of shark teeth, which is creepy, right? So like it's just I don't it just happens, and it's nothing to get fussed about, but it is funny to see.
I find it funny, not like, my god, mangaka who has to work and do this weekly thing endlessly for years makes a mistake. Whoa, call the fucking, I don't know, call the manga police. I couldn't think of a way to finish that joke. And just like,
I liked it though. But anyway, Goku gets some serious injuries. Piccolo gets pressed pretty hard. Some big explosions.
Oh, the part where like Goku hits him and he falls into his minion and the minion is just dead.
Yeah, it's very good. And then of course there's the part where Piccolo threatens Tenshinhan and uses that to break Goku's limbs. Like, he's not going to just kill Goku. No, he's going to make him suffer. Which I guess that's where his, like, arrogance really comes in. because it's not just about killing Goku at this point, it's about making him suffer. And then you get the fucking awesome fucking finale in this, where Goku has one, like I mentioned earlier, I compared it to Urza, but Goku used the one-hand Kamehameha, and then he fucking punches Piccolo and just rips through him, and it's like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
So it's such a good sequence. And also, I don't know if I noticed this, or maybe it didn't stick with me as much, but Goku, like, is literally crying tears of relief after beating Piccolo.
Yeah.
Like, he's so glad that this fight is over. Like, there's just a level of, like, seriousness that this fight, I don't know if Dragon Ball has something like this again. Because I guess, this is Goku's first, like, very real, serious battle against someone who is, like, a big threat to not just himself, but the world, right? So seeing Goku having this reaction is interesting, because I don't think he gets a reaction like that again, where he's like literally crying in relief after a victory.
But it's also like, maybe I'm just reading it differently, but it's also, to me, it kind of gives off the impression that it's not like a satisfying victory, because like even if he defeats Piccolo here, it's like all the things that he's lost up to this point. Muten Roshi's dead, Krillin's dead, the dragon is dead. And at this point, there is no... Actually, I forget. Is he aware at this point that the Dragon Balls don't work? He is. Okay.
Yeah.
But he's not aware yet that the Dragon Balls can be brought back.
Right, so that's another good reading, where it's like he's now, instead of, like I said, relieved that he's won, it's more that he's like, it's over, so now, like, the weight of the losses is kind of, like, setting in.
Yeah, it could be, like, a mix of the two.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, sure. Or either interpretation is valid, I would say, even if
sure. Okay, my interpretation is worse. I see.
No, I think I like it.
I'm being facetious.
I'm being pedantic. I don't know.
It was just the way that you're like, yeah, sure. I thought that funny.
Because they're both good, and interesting to think about. But
and I'm also just looking more at the fight. There's just like a lot about the mechanics that I really like. Because you do get like some trickery, like Goku bending his Kamehameha. But like when first off, Piccolo does like the thing at the beginning where he just like swipes his arm, and it's like the gust of energy. Like that comes up later, like when Goku does the thing with Chi-Chi, where he just like blows her out of the ring, and Piccolo's like, that's like a demon move or whatever. It's like, seeing the sort of connection there, I think. But then also just like with the ways that the fight plays out, like when Piccolo immobilizes Goku's leg, and so he's using the Nyoibo to, as like a way to, as like a second leg sort of thing.
And he also uses the Nimbus, and Tenshinhan helps him fly for a little bit. Like, he uses... Yeah. Like, and of course, I'm sure, he does, at the very end of the fight, he uses the Kamehameha for mobility. Like, he's constantly using these different, mechanics of the story up to this point, against Piccolo, which is part of why it's, like, this good climax and turning point, I'd say. Another thing I was gonna say, because going back to the why Goku cried after beating Piccolo, it's just like, because I think, I've even been saying like, oh yeah, he's a simple character, but I don't mean that as a way to like dismiss him, because I think the way he's written is also very much like the way Luffy is written, in that like they don't have internal monologues and stuff, right?
Yeah.
They're told exclusively through dialogue and action, and I really love Luffy for that, in part for that reason, aside from just being like the main character of my favorite series and just one of my favorite characters ever. Where Goku kind of has that, like, the fact that we're able to, like, sit down and discuss, okay, why is Goku, like, because we're not gonna see it spelled out explicitly, right? Like, he's not gonna have an internal monologue where it's like, Krillin, Goku, or, it's finally over, or, like, we don't know why, but we're just sort of left to infer, and I think that sort of method of writing is very, like, interesting to see in these kind of, like, for some reason. It's cool and good.
I also just like the panels where, he's, like, the ape as he's like getting ready to punch Piccolo. It's good. It's very visually interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, anyway, things wrap up. Goku goes off with Yajirobe. The Bulma and Yamcha come to pick up Tenshinhan. Piccolo Jr. is real. But anyway, they go back to Karn's Tower, and he tells them about God,
It was actually really funny that you mentioned Korin and Karin, because like
Yeah,
I forgot what the dub called him after a point. Like I was like, I know it's not Karin, but I couldn't remember the name, and I had to like look it up. Even though, because I don't know, I guess he just wouldn't have been much of a major character in that portion that I would have seen the dub. So
Right.
I just like genuinely forgot, and I wonder if there are going to be other characters like that where like I forget what they're called in the dub or whatever.
Because most of them are the same, but there are a few. Because like I can't, because I'm just, I've said Tien earlier. Like I just get mixed up because the child in my brain that watched this show religiously is still there, right? Like I've just accepted. Yeah, I'm never gonna call him Kururin. Like it's not hard to say, but I'm just never gonna do it, right? But anyway, he tells them to use the power pole or the Nyombo. The words, dubs.
Oh, that's right. I was thinking also like with pronouncing like Kuririn. I was thinking about like, oh yeah, like I could see how it could be tricky to say in a dub, but also just like thinking more like with myself, like watching Tropical Rouge Precure, and it's like, oh, Kururun is a thing. So it's actually not all that different pronunciation-wise, which doesn't mean anything. Like, I'm not going to say like, oh, they shouldn't have changed it in the dub or whatever. But it's just like trying to process it in my head. It's like, oh, I actually probably could do that now if I wanted, but I'm not going to.
But anyway, yeah, Goku needs his Nyoibo, and he goes to the fortune teller Baba, and she's just like, yeah, you saved the world. This one's for free. And like, what am I gonna do? Make you fight those guys? Like, I don't have anyone who could stand up to you.
Yeah, because it's like, who would want to fight somebody who could take down Piccolo?
Right? And it just goes like, oh, hey, Nyoibo, hi, bye, and then everyone's just like, wait, what? What did he say? What's going on? Like, he just doesn't even like this is where this Dragon Ball speedrun becomes like funny, right?
Yeah, like and just the bubble of like Ten Shinhan, like something about coming back to life, seeing God. It's just kind of like,
damn, Goku had a religious experience and he's not going to tell us about it. Right, like it's just funny because like he hasn't seen these guys in a while. They thought he was dead for the better part of the last couple days, and okay, bye Goku, nice seeing you too. I'm not bitter or anything. Like, I don't know, it's just funny. Anyway, he goes off to the Kami's tower. Then we get Mr. Popo. I forget how strong he was, but go on.
Now that I look at the art, which that I don't even know if that might be a censorship thing that he doesn't have the lips.
Yeah, I'm assuming so because I feel like just as an art, like especially because it's Toriyama, right? I feel like he's a good artist, he knows things, so I feel like not having the lips just like throws off his face, right? It just makes him look weird, right? I don't know. So I feel like, and maybe it's because I know what he's supposed to look like, and so the absence of something that I'm used to is I understand, removing the racial thing, but then there's some panels where his mouth is just so thin that it's like it's almost not even there, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't think Toriyama would draw it like that, so I'd have to check maybe some of the Dragon Ball dissection because he would use the original manga, but it just it's like I don't think we need to belabor the Mr. Popo, like we already brought up Little Black Sambo, and I mean his clothes is more Middle Eastern Indian inspired kinda, but I don't know, it still doesn't, I don't know, it's don't feel the need to belabor it.
It's also the type of subject where it's like I don't know what I could possibly add, sort of thing.
It's it's maybe not the best design, and maybe Toriyama didn't know, like did he know that Dragon Ball was going to become a massive international hit in the years following? I don't think anyone did, right? Which it doesn't excuse it in the first place if it didn't, but it's like it could, it just could have been better, but whatever, it's too late now to fix it, right? It's just a part of history now. We should be aware of it, and I don't think, like I said, there's not much to add. So, but yeah, I did forget how strong Popo was, as I was saying, because he just beats the shit out of Goku, and he's like able to like completely teleport behind him, and it's just like neat. And Kami is also really strong. But anyway, we find out his whole deal and about the Piccolo stuff. And also, I like how, because Kami was like, originally I wasn't going to bring Shenlong back, but, because, people only use the Dragon Balls for their greed and for their desires, but you were different. Like, Goku being, like, the nice, pure boy is able to, like, keep the Dragon Balls and ultimately, like, save Krillin and Roshi and everyone. And it's just really nice. So I'm rereading it and I forgot about this joke where, like, Kami tells Goku about Piccolo Jr. and then, you must fight him. And Goku's like, okay, I promise I'll fight Piccolo. By the way, can I use the bathroom? And it's just like, it's just a simple little thing, but I don't know, something's funny about it. Cause like, especially because, they fall down and Kami is like making a shocked face and it's just funny. But anyway, Kami brings back the dragon. They're able to wish everyone back to life. Roshi's incredibly impressed by Goku. And yeah, Goku decides to train. And everyone's like, yeah, we're going to meet at the next Tenkaichi Budokai. And it's nice, and it's over, but not really. And it's a good arc.
Yeah.
So yeah, then we get the time skip. The scary time skip if you're an editor at Jump, apparently. And it's actually funny because it starts off with characters who don't change a whole... Like, Bulma's been aging slowly bit by bit every time skip, I feel. And, so she still looks roughly the same, all things considered. But then you get Goku, and they don't even recognize him. And it is a very big transformation. Like, honestly, only his hair is about the same, really. Like, his face is different, because the way his eyes are drawn is different. I think, maybe? No, it's about the same. Never mind. Well, maybe a little bit different. But another thing about his design is that his chin is no longer round. He's actually got a pointy chin. But yeah, it's definitely a market change at least. And of course, he was even like, "Did you guys shrink?" Oh, well, I might have gotten a little bit taller. Like, one thing I appreciated is that, like, even though he's like visually changed, like the arc very much like establishes that, yeah, this is Goku. This is very much the same Goku, right?
Yeah.
And it's good.
I was feeling like a little whiplash seeing the design again, because like obviously I'd be more familiar, as most people not from Japan probably would be more familiar with the later material. So this is the design, Goku
right,
first and foremost.
This is the nostalgic design, right? Even though, right, like you said, which I also remember that was the thing in the Naruto discussion, because a lot of my experience with Naruto was in part 2, because I watched like a lot of part, like up to the tuning, somewhere in the tuning exams on Toonami, and then I just skipped to part 2 in the manga. So like that was the nostalgic Naruto design for me, where for you it was more the part 1, right? But so we were different there, but here I think we're very much the same. But even if it is like
so like I'm getting like the conflicting. Like, this is the Goku I recognize, but also, like, having just, gone through the manga, and up to this point seeing Kid Goku, so that it's, like, the conflicting of, like, trying to process that and also my, like, nostalgia, and it's like, who am I looking at?
Of course, like, Ten Shinhan and Yamcha and Chaozu have barely changed, but, Krillin actually does also change quite a bit. Like, he's still short, but, it's definitely, he still has another market change in himself, I think. So,
you say Yamcha doesn't change all that much, but he gets like face scars.
He does, yeah.
This is definitely like my favorite Yamcha design, because like with the long wild hair and
yeah,
I guess the scars also kind of make him look more like tougher.
I guess I was thinking more of like build, I guess, because like Krillin and Goku have changed much more in their like body shape and stuff in comparison to the other three.
Yeah.
Where Yamcha,
I think it's with Yamcha,
right,
it's also kind of reminiscent, I think, of his original design when he was the bandit.
Yeah, that's true. So it's kind of, he's going like forward and back in a sense. Yeah. But, no, you're right. Yeah, Yamcha's probably the one who's changed the most. And I guess, really, the one who's changed the most is probably Piccolo Jr., because this man is 3 years old, and he's just, like, he's taller than Goku, he's big, like, which I didn't really think about until, like, watching Dragon Ball Dissection, because I think it's during the Saiyan arc, where he talks about how, like, maybe, drawing some parallels between Gohan and Piccolo, right? and observing that they aren't really that different in age. But because I didn't think about that, but yeah.
I'm also looking at the one panel where like all the characters are standing kind of in, like you can see like the height differences, and it's like, Goku might be taller, but Ten Shinhan is still like, he's still a giant.
Yeah, Goku's still kind of runty, all things considered. Like, he's like definitely like twice as tall, but it's still like it wasn't that tall to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was also looking at Yamcha too, and Yamcha's also taller than Goku. So there's like an interesting, like just going down the characters. It's like, okay, this character's taller than this character, taller than this character. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just neat.
And anyway, as far as like designs and familiarity, when Chi-Chi comes in, and there's like a whole thing about like, who is this? Who could she be? How does Goku not recognize her? And I'm like,
yeah.
But we know Chi-Chi, this is the design for Chi-Chi that we're more familiar with, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of, like, the entire Western Dragon Ball sphere just kind of completely loses this level of, this whole, like, reveal, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because she hasn't appeared since the first arc in the story. Not at all.
And
like at least in the manga.
Yeah, and her design is so completely different. Like she's no longer like tiny Ultra 7 anymore, right? She's I could totally understand someone like completely forgetting about her, right? And then just being surprised. Oh, it was that character. I having a Toriyama moment. Like, did I draw that? Right. But again, we just completely lose it because, like, if anything, the younger Chi-Chi is going to be like, oh wait, this character is the character who eventually marries Goku and gives birth to Gohan, right? Like that's it's the reverse, right? Because this is Chi-Chi. So yeah, we just kind of completely lose that thread. So yeah.
Like, I think just looking at all of the characters here, I think this is probably, like, this might just be my favorite iteration of the cast, like, as visually speaking. Because, I don't know, Chi-Chi's design is cute, and, like I've already talked about Yamcha, and, Goku's not, like, super duper muscular yet.
Yeah, he's like a nice balance between like the Dragon Ball, like even though this is still like the Dragon Ball portion, all things considered, it's still like Goku's design is more leaning towards Dragon Ball, even if it is very he's taller and such. Like, I was also thinking about the eyes, because like the way the lines aren't completely drawn around the eyes, where later they're much more sharper and angular, right? Like narrower. Like the eyes are almost completely different, right? Yeah. So, and that's also probably, I don't know when he shifts towards the sharper eyes, but and maybe is that just in my memory? I don't know, but it's definitely a big difference between like this Goku and like later Goku.
Yeah, definitely.
But no, it's a nice set of designs. Not that I think like, does Toriyama miss with designs? Not maybe, but not often. So. But anyway, getting into the fights, we get the King Chopper rematch, and Goku just rest in peace. Tao Pai Pai is a cyborg now, and he takes out Chaozu.
Yeah, it was also kind of interesting seeing the like manipulating of the brackets come back again, but this time it's less of a, I want to fight these characters, and it's more like keep all of us separated. But then, once Chaozu fulfills that purpose, he's expendable. Oh, I guess, yeah, also Chaozu has, like, a slightly different outfit here. And, I don't know. It's neat. It's easy to miss because he doesn't last long.
Yeah, and in general, like, him and Ten Shinhan just appeared, like, fairly recently. So, their transformation isn't as, dramatic as the other characters, somehow. Oh yeah, and I guess they kind of instantly build up Shen. I forgot that he fights Yajirobe, which who we know to be strong. And I love the way Kami fights as Shen, where he just acts like very like it's funny, right?
Yeah, it's funny, but it is also like there's a lesson in there that like don't just judge people by like appearances, because his fighting style is goofy and it seems like he's just lucking into things, but there is definitely a strategy to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which, as we see in full when he gets his fight with later with Yamcha, I think. But So yeah, this is definitely the best variation of the launch gives them a better seat at the tournament gag, because Bulma like deliberately like makes Lunch sneeze so that hey, we're counting on you, and she's she's just immediately like pulls out the guns. Because last time it was more like happenstance, and this time it's like, yeah, we're gonna abuse this. You're not in the manga for very much longer, so let's get all we can out of it. So anyway, first battle is Ten Shinhan versus Tao Pai Pai. I kind of already talked about what I like about the fight. Did you have any takeaways?
I mean, yeah, it's cool to see more stuff going on for Ten Shinhan. That won't last long. So I will take what I can get now.
But yeah, and it you know, it's kind of neat. Like, yeah, he loses his idol in Tao Pai Pai. Like, if he had any respect left, it's gone. And you know, once again, like we very much see the difference between the two, and Intentional just fucking destroys him. So yeah, it's a nice little fight, and
it is interesting in how the fight plays out too, because like he still doesn't want to disrespect Tao Pai Pai, even though, you know, like him like completely abandoning his martial artist way, like even after the fact, like after he beats him up, you know, he just says like, you know, like he's pleading with his sensei that like, you know, like please just like never show yourselves in front of us again, like don't worsen my image of you like even more, sort of thing, because like he still has that respect for the people who brought, like, you know, for the people who taught him what he knows, even if he's, you know, taken a different path since then.
Right, and I guess like it's also because, you know, Tao Pai Pai has all these like new tricks because of cyborg body, but you know, in the face of Ten Shinhan's like self-improvement, he deflects the Super Donenpa with a shout, not even like an energy burst or anything. He just yells like with just sound and deflects it. It's like, holy shit. So it's just cool. Also, I forgot, did they write Chi-Chi with an accent in the early chapters? Because she has like, I just
they did.
Okay, they yeah, okay. It makes, I just noticed that again, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I mean, it's like
I feel like it's kind of underplayed even here, like her accent. Like there are definitely like a couple of things, but it's not. I don't think it's as prevalent as it was when she was younger. Which I don't know if that's just like a difference in the translation, or if it's more like
she got older and she's shedded a little bit, right?
Yeah, that was going to be my other option.
And it's a funny fight. Like, you got you know, she mentions the marriage. I asked you for my hand, or I wanted you to, or you'd said you'd ask for my hand, and everyone like freaks out, and Goku's like, what? And then you have to explain it to him.
Yeah, like I've also seen this translated. Oh, never mind. He does say that outright. That like when the talks of marriage, he's like, oh, I thought she meant something to eat. But then he's like, okay, you know, I did promise, so I guess we'll get married. And it's
I love Goku's attitude towards it, like especially the part where she's like, fine, I'll tell you my name if you win, if you beat me. And he's like, oh, thank God, I thought I was gonna have to marry someone whose name I didn't know. Like, he's still gonna marry her. He doesn't know her name, but he's gonna do it, right? Like, he's just so honest. It's adorable, right? Like, and it's such a, like, it's just one of those instances where it's like, yeah, it's still Goku, right? And it's just so good. And yeah, he just, like you said, the demon folk move, and he just destroys her instantly, and it's like, oh, sad. Anyway, then we get Krillin versus Piccolo Jr.
Yeah, this is definitely another case of jobbing where Krillin doesn't look like a chump here.
Yeah.
Like, he does lose, but you can still see, like, the efforts of his training. Like, he's able to, like, he does the bendy ki blast move, and he's able to, like, he's learned the levitation technique, so he is able to stop himself from going out of bounds. And, I don't know, like, everybody kind of gets their own little skill sets from their training, and, I don't know, it's neat to see it.
Yeah, and I like how, like, not only is he kind of able to hold his own, but there's the part where, like, Piccolo, like, oh, ha, I killed him. And then Krillin gets up, and Piccolo's, like, legitimately like, oh, fuck, right? Well, of course, Krillin gives up after that, but it's just, you know, he's able to, like, have his showing against Piccolo Jr., like, you know, which kind of is sort of implying that if, you know, like, this Krillin could probably beat up Demon King Piccolo, right? Which is, you know, and, Because unfortunately he didn't get the chance to do anything because he was kind of dead the whole time.
Yeah.
But it's he's become this strong after just 3 years of training, and it's nice. Anyway, then we have Shen versus Yamcha, where we get the nice. I guess like I didn't think about it until you mentioned it earlier, but we kind of don't have preconceptions towards people, and take everything. Like I kind of noticed that thread in the Red Ribbon Army arc where it just kind of like occurs as a joke a lot. And so here you get a more like meaningful like examination of that idea with Shen just kind of like completely like gets Yamcha and completely catches him off guard because he's taking it cautiously, or he's taking it recklessly, and just this guy's just a clumsy old salaryman, and nope.
And then there's the part where Shen just like goes all out and like drops the act of like being goofy, and he just like straight up like just like hits him, and it's like, oh fuck, everybody's like, what was that? Because like he is like Kami's still like teaching him a lesson here, sort of like because he doesn't just beat him, like he does that, and like Yamcha is like, oh okay, this guy does actual, like, it, as they say, like, he opens his eyes. And so, like, there is able to, he even says, like, for just a little while, I'll continue the lesson. And so there's more talk about, like, wasteful movements and, sort of like the training that Goku went through and, like, the stuff that he would have picked up.
I realized as you were talking. It's like, oh, yeah, because he just trained Goku for 3 years, so it makes sense that he's sort of, like, still in that mentorship mentality, and with a person who he recognizes to be like a good person if flawed, right? So he works in a way to refine that, and he gets Yamcha getting more or less serious. Yamcha even gets a good strike off on him, and but he's on it like with the spirit, the ball that he can manipulate, and but then of course he just, after the hit, he just takes him down and knocks him out of the ring, and the way he falls off reminded me a little of when he lost to Jackie Chun. Just for some reason, just like, but I mean, how many ways can you fall off a ring? So,
I think it is also kind of like this trope that kind of comes up here of like characters being like, oh, I was gonna save this special move for later, but I guess I have to use it now. Like Yamcha has one of those, Ten Shinhan has one of those. I don't think Krillin had one, but
not at this point, no. And I guess that they probably don't explain why they hold the move off till later, but I guess, there's surprise factor. If the move costs a lot of energy, you don't want to use it first, but that's all, I don't know, assumptions. And,
also thinking, like, it's a tournament, so, like, if they expect that they're going, like, like Yamcha taking for granted that, like, I'm going to win this match, but then being like, oh, no, I actually might not. I could lose, so I have to...
Yeah, if you use that earlier, and it's still... Right, gotta...
Because, like, it's also, like, they, showing off the fruits of their training that, like, that they grew at all. So, like, I understand why, like, from a writing perspective, like, they do have these moments with these techniques.
I'm just a little conscious of it, because, like, I'm sure, you weren't applying it, but it is something that people, like, complain about, I guess, with stories. Like, why doesn't the character go all out from the beginning? And it's like, there's usually a reason for it. And like you said, in this case, it's a tournament. It makes sense to keep cards close to your chest for the later opponents, because if you reveal everything, then your future opponents will have time to prepare and know what they're up against, right? So, anyway, then we get Goku versus Ten Shinhan.
I love this fight. I just like, the way that everything's like laid out with the panels and the art. But then also just as kind of like the follow-up to the previous tournament, like this is the tournament finale happening, the rematch happening as like a semifinal thing, because we don't get that opportunity. Like, it's unnecessary with Goku and Jackie Chun, because, there's the thing with Ten Shinhan, so that, Goku never gets the opportunity, but like he's able to get the rematch with Ten Shinhan here, and it's cool.
Yeah, and he gets I'm sure this... I don't know if this is the first instance of it, but, the character takes off their weights. It's not as, like, showy as some other examples, but it's definitely, like... or at least until after he takes them off, because he's just... Like, the whole thing with Ten Shinhan and his eyes, right? Like, I can see even really fast movements, because I have 3 eyes, but Goku's so fast he can't see him. And, of course, there's even, like, a little gag where Goku takes off his belt, and his pants fall down.
Well, yeah, and that's also really cool. Because like in the panel above it, you can see him like grabbing the belt.
Mm-hmm.
Which like it's an easy thing to miss, but then like if you look back up to it, no, and it's like, oh yeah, that's there. That's cool. Yeah, I also know that like characters, like, oh, I didn't even see that attack or that sort of thing. That's been happening a lot up to this point, and it continues to happen.
Yeah. Well, even having back in like the fucking first reading, the first tournament, right, where there was the whole gag sequence of Roshi and Krillin. But now it's like, how does anyone see anything at this point? It's,
yeah. Also, is this an art inconsistency? Goku takes off the wrist guard things, and then sometime I think in the next chapter he has them back on.
He does.
And then they're off again.
No, not even no. No, because I was about to say, like at the start of the chapter he doesn't have them, and then in this one panel he does, and then after that he doesn't. So it's literally just for one panel he has them on accident for some reason. So as I said earlier, it's art mistakes like that. They just happen, and as someone who doesn't draw, I don't know. Like I said, I feel like I'm consistent with my writing at times, so I don't. People still, maybe it's just maybe I'm more detail oriented than some people. I don't know. Like maybe it's just a personality thing rather than like I don't know. And that's what sometimes, and that's the thing. It slipped by every assistant, every editor, like everyone who looked at this before it was published missed it too. Even before, like this is the volume release, so you have how many people reading this and no one noticed, or like I don't know, or I guess they never got Toriyama to fix it, right? That's also possible if they did notice, but like he's a busy man, so. Because sometimes they do fix stuff in the volumes. Especially at this point
when he would still be working on the weekly manga too. Like, yeah, he'd be busy.
Because, they do volume redraws even as the manga is publishing. Like, I've seen some for other manga, but, it's, rough schedule. But anyway, Tenshinhan splits into 4, so you have, that aspect of the fight. And I like how he's like, this technique is perfect. And Goku's like, And, of course, he finds a counter, because he does the... well, I guess it didn't think about it like this, but he's kind of like stealing back because Tenshinhan used the Kamehameha last time, and so here he uses the solar flare.
Yeah.
And so he blinds the clones and is able to just like sort of take them out. And it's a fun fight. Lots more mechanics. This more friendly rivalry. And basically the last thing Tenshinhan does in the manga for the most part. Anyway, then we get, there's a little exchange between Goku and Kami, about, the sort of issue with, like, if Piccolo Jr. gets killed, then he'll die, too. Anyway, then, what did you think about Shen versus Piccolo Jr.?
Things happen. He tries to seal Piccolo with, the Mafuba, and, doesn't work. And then, like, Piccolo Piccolo reverses it and seals him. And then they do the thing again where, like, he eats the thing that... And so it's like, now you can't kill me, sort of deal.
Mm-hmm. And it's also, like, because how it works out is, like, the original Shen... kind of just like he loses comedy. He's like, what the fuck just happened? And he like people are applauding him even though he lost. And like his son is like, wow, you're so cool, Dad. And he's like, like it's just funny. It's a pretty short fight, so I guess it makes sense that it doesn't stand out that much. And it's mostly in service of building to the actual like how the Goku versus Piccolo Jr. fight works out. So But anyway, Goku is prepared to, like, they're even talking about, like, maybe they should just, like, break up the tournament and just stop him. But Goku, like, no, he wants to fight him, and he wants to do it. Which is an aspect of the fight I really like, because it is this serious fight against this character who's ready to destroy the world, but it stays confined in the tournament. And, like, there's something I just love about that. But getting to the fight proper, sorry, just skimming through their fighting. Goku, like, there's the part where Piccolo knocks him down, and Goku's like, I was pretending to be downed. Like, because Piccolo knew that the, obviously, like, that wasn't going to take you out. But also Goku's clothes get destroyed a lot. Like, this poor guy, like, this guy needs, like, bulk uniforms. But anyway, so yeah, Piccolo destroys the arena, or tries to, and everyone like evacuates.
I think it's also kind of interesting that even though like we see that Krillin is able, like he has like he learns how to like levitate too. With Goku, for at least like the majority of this fight, he is still relying on like getting back to the ring with like his Kamehameha or whatever. Like he's not yet at the point where he is able to do that throughout the fight.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I think it's kind of interesting, I guess, in this specific case, because most of the time, like, Goku's stronger than everybody. So if someone knows how to do something, he probably also knows how to do it.
Yeah.
But this is like one example where a character who is weaker than him and isn't an antagonist, like, has an ability that he doesn't. I guess that also would have counted for Ten Shinhan, but he would have been the antagonist in the previous arc.
Right. So it's like a holdover in that way, but because it is like revealed after a while that Goku can fly. He just he can't do it like continuously. So he kind of holds back a bit, and then also Piccolo grows. See, I love this this part where Piccolo grows bigger, and Goku like goads him on to make him grow even bigger. So that he can, because at first he like trips him up to show that you're not, you could be, maybe you're not big enough to stop me, and then he gets Kami out of his stomach, and I'm like, Goku, that's legitimately smart. It's so good. And they free Kami, and now like that part of the fight is no longer a problem. And I guess what I also liked about the fight that I guess really stuck with me and which is probably why I might have it as my favorite in the series so far, is because Kami keeps saying destroy Piccolo, kill him, right? Because he is spawned from Demon King Piccolo, but he isn't Demon King Piccolo. He's Piccolo Jr. and he's kind of like being beholden to the will of his predecessor, and but Goku he just kind of takes things as they are, and so like when he spares him at the end, like. He was very much threatening to kill lots of people, and it's not for lack of trying that he was, trying, but he also didn't kill anyone. So, Goku was successfully able to protect anyone who might have been in danger, and, so, when the way the fight ends, and, Piccolo Jr. is just counted out, and he just loses, and he leaves, basically, right? He kind of keeps Piccolo Jr. from being a villain, so to speak, or at least doing something that he could, couldn't necessarily take back, right? And it just makes a lot of more sense. It makes sense to me why Demon King Piccolo was killed, where Piccolo Jr. was not only spared but would go on to become an ally in as early as literally the next arc, right? So and that's just something I really like, because Goku is he's a reactive character. He can be vengeful, right? But what is Piccolo he freed Kami. What vengeance does he need to enact on Piccolo Jr., right? So there's no anger here compared to the Demon King Piccolo. Goku did get really wounded, but I guess you could say that's part of the fight, and because he's still he was able to headbutt him and win by count out. So it's it's good. I liked it.
This fight is definitely really brutal in ways that are, I think, different than the series has been up to this point, or even in some regards after this point. Actually, I won't say that, because I am sure that the Dragon Ball manga probably has more graphic violence than the anime, because that's generally how this stuff works.
Yeah.
But Piccolo, his arm being all bloodied, and he just tears it off and is able to regenerate it.
Yeah.
That's the first instance of that ability. And the bit where I always think about this one in particular, but where he blasts a hole through Goku's chest.
Yeah.
And then even afterwards, he keeps attacking that spot, and there's just he's coughing up blood, and it's
no, yeah, looking at the sequence where he, flies at the Piccolo to headbutt him, and you see the blood stains around his mouth from it dripping, And even when he opens his mouth to say, you lose, like, there's blood in his mouth, and it's just like, yeah, there's, like, a level of, like, detail there, right?
Yeah, because, like, even in the previous fight was also kind of brutal in that, like, you know, I specifically think of the sequence where King Piccolo is, like, I was about to say blowing off all his limbs. That's not quite what happens, but, you know, like, making them all useless.
Right.
And so, yeah, like, you do have, like, the detail there. Oh, that's right, and he also does, like, break Goku's leg, which I forgot about. Which is also kind of similar to, you know, not something he hasn't done before. I was thinking Yamcha Tenshinhan. So there has been brutality before this point, but it's just a different kind.
Yeah, and, but anyway, like, yeah, the fight ends, Kami tries to kill Piccolo Jr., but Goku stops him, which again goes back to the, you know, like, he can be a threat, sure, but I guess, like, well, because Kami even says that, like, it was his fault that Piccolo existed. Like, he wants to kill Piccolo Jr. as a way to sort of repent for his own sins, right, and for his own past that he kind of rejects. But Goku, you know, like, is kind of, like, accepting, you know, that, you know, Piccolo, like, especially when you think about how, like, a lot of his friends are former antagonists, right? So, like, Tenshinhan and Yamcha, and Chaozu, that, you know, so, Piccolo Jr., you know, or Kami doesn't need to be burned by his past sins when, you know, they can be overcome. And so it makes sense that he's able to, like, you know, let Piccolo Jr. be, and, like, he gives him a sensu, and he's like, what the fuck is going on? And he even says, like, oh, withdraw for now, like, he gives up for now, but, you know, he didn't do anything, he's fine, he's still pure, I guess, he's an asshole, but, yeah, and I don't know, or I guess how I phrased it in my notes is, like, Kami felt beholden to his past, and, that he regretted, and Piccolo Jr. still doesn't have to be, which of course Goku isn't aware of. He doesn't care. But, you know, it's just knowing how it goes forward. We know that, you know, Piccolo Jr. doesn't have to be Demon King Piccolo's son. And he really isn't after this point. So, yeah. But, it was good. I liked it. I just had a lot of fun reading it. And, yeah, getting to the ending where, like, Kami's like, hey, Goku, do you want to be God? And Goku's like, nah, I don't give a shit. And I'm going to go off and get married and have children. And, like, just the way, you know, like, there's the whole bit with Roshi where he sort of frames Goku's journey and about, like, how, the Dragon Ball, like, yeah, Kami, you may have created Piccolo, but you also created the Dragon Balls, and without those Dragon Balls, like, we wouldn't have met, you know, all these friends wouldn't have, all this, like, everyone, like, having this friendly competition, like, everything was possible because of, you know, what Kami did in the past, and, it was just really, like, wholesome and satisfying, and I'm like, yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Good manga.
And that's the end. Next time, Dragon Ball Super.
Anyway, for real, next time we're reading the Saiyan Saga, which is going to be exciting because it's where, like, you know, for a lot of people, Dragon Ball really started, right? Even though it obviously isn't. Like, this is going to be our 4th episode, but it's still, like, you know, culturally important in regards to, you know, the Western discussions. So I'm looking forward very much to reading it. Anyway,
yeah, I'm just, you know, I'm hoping that I'm able to keep up the same level of enthusiasm with it too, because like, obviously that has more nostalgia tied into it, for better and for worse. So yeah, I'm hoping that things stay like as interesting as they have been.
Yeah, see,
because I think that's always something kind of refreshing about going back to, you know, like the first, not even half, like, but, you know, this first section of Dragon Ball, because it's like that nostalgia, like, isn't fully there. Like, even if I have gone through the material once before, it's not the same, I guess. Like, the experience with it isn't as comprehensive, maybe.
No, yeah, right, absolutely. And
so I still feel like there's room for my, like, opinions to shift, and whereas, like, having so much experience with the Z portion, it's like my opinions are a little more set in stone, so that might be trickier to budge. But we'll see.
see, for me is like, because I'm excited to get to the later parts. Like, for one reason is that, like, my opinion has already changed, right? Like, my favorite arc used to be Red Ribbon, and now, like, it's like the Piccolo stuff in general, and this whole reading. It's hard. It's saga, but it's hard to pick a single one because it's all really solid stuff. So, like, if my opinion's already changed, like, it's within reason that it could change again. So, and like, I've already come to appreciate the story a lot more, I would say. Like, there's just some little interesting stuff, like little bits and conflicts and stuff that I like, oh, that's neat. I guess the other part of the reason I'm excited for the later stuff is because what I already like in, like, the other shonen manga and stuff is probably more like, Saiyan Saga and beyond compared to before. Right? So, like, if, like, and I think what Dragon Ball does before, like, it has its own appeal, very much so, and it does appeal to me. But, so I'm kind of curious as to how I'll respond to that later stuff. Being familiar with it to a fair degree, but also having not really gone through it in a while. So, I don't know. I hope to like it. I don't think I will dislike it, but, we'll see. But next time it's going to be chapters 195 to 241. So this will be our shortest reading until Super. Because, actually, one of the shorter readings in general, because after this is going to be, like, 3 big sagas. So, anyway, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.